Good morning, everyone. We will call the June 11th, 2020 Special Council meeting on the budget to order. It is nice to be back with all of you in the chambers after quite a respite. I think we're all going to have to use our outdoor voices because we're a bit muffled with these face masks. I'm also personally suffocating and my glasses are steaming up, so I'll be taking those on and off throughout the meeting. Before we dive into the actual reports, I would ask if there are any citizens to be heard for items that are not on the agenda. Seeing none, we're going to start out with the city manager reports. We're going to go through all of the different departments, the overview. We do have the ability to talk about the strategic plan. And before we dive in, Mr. Horn, I just want to say one of the things that I had promised citizens was that we would do an update of our strategic plan once we got back to post-COVID situation. And that really means going out and talking to citizens and getting their viewpoint and then consolidating that with the council's viewpoint. So I hope that that will be something that we can do in the months ahead. I know that there have been many emails that the city clerk will be putting into the record. We had 4 actually, about this particular meeting. Some of them pointed out that in the strategic plan we do not have environmental and sustainability, which I think is something we'll want to add. But I think ultimately we want to go out to the citizens and find out what their priorities are, and that really drives the budget over the long haul. So with that, I will turn it over to the city manager.
Mayor, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Y'all feeling pretty good?
Yeah.
My Starbucks was open, and I had my first latte since March. So if I seem like I'm a little jazzed up, you know why. Mayor, I just want to reemphasize what you said. It's good to be back in chambers. It's good that we're able now to really have the kind of interaction I think that we all appreciate. It's always good to look at eyeballs and see, you know, kind of what those nonverbal messages are. I think this is good. As the agenda indicates, our purpose is to review the city's vision, mission, and strategic goals and financial forecast. And as the mayor indicated, we have asked our department heads to summarize their work related to the goals and objectives that are in the plan. So the idea is that we all leave here kind of at the same place. This is particularly important for our newest council members so that when we follow up this meeting in August, Mayor, we'll all be ready to dive in and make those kinds of changes that you sort of indicated, as well as others, that you all may bring to the table. COVID-19 pushed everything to the right. We would have liked to have had this kind of meeting sooner, but we weren't able to do it. Revenue projections has made it very difficult for us to guess as to where we are. We're still guessing. So with your patience, we're hoping that in August we'll have better clarity from a financial point of view. The format of how we're going to present our information to you today is I'm going to give the intro. I'll turn it over to Micah Maxwell, who will kind of take us through implementation and work plans. Then I'll come back as part of a path forward conversation, just nailing down, where we're going from here. That's kind of what the format. You have documentation that highlights that our city council policy is the reason we're here. It's policy 12.3, and it states that prior to June 1st of each year and prior to the development of the city's budget, the city council shall meet in a strategic planning session to review the 5-year financial forecast, and you will get that, and update as necessary the city's vision, mission, and strategic direction. From these documents, a 5-year strategic plan will be updated. So at the end of this rodeo, that's where we're headed. I call your attention to the statement on city's vision and mission statements because I want you to know that the city hired John Streetmatter who is a strategic planning professional, in 2012. And over a series of months, the City Council, in discussion and decision-making, approved or established the current strategic direction document that you are familiar with. It was derived from input from stakeholders and community analysis, which is then consistent with what the mayor was talking about going out and, kind of renewing that connection, with our residents as an input for you in determining how you want to amend our plan. In the years since, the city has conducted citizen satisfaction surveys to gauge community satisfaction with our services, functions, and projects. So Joelle Castelli has kept our surveying ongoing. We decided to make that investment so that we would have a way of kind of measuring over time, how our citizens feel about some of the service delivery aspects of what our mission is as a municipality. So that framework is in place. And again, surveys have their limitations, but at least, we're getting some feedback and we can evaluate it over time. So as we look at our vision, and you see it on the screen there, Clearwater will be a uniquely beautiful and vibrant community that is socially and economically diverse, that invests for the future, and that is a wonderful place to live, work, and play. That vision did not occur in 10 minutes. The council really did debate this, and that is what emerged from their conversation. And so your staff is oriented toward working to achieve that vision. If you look at the mission, provide cost-effective municipal services, facilitate development, and to support a high quality of life and experience. And so that's what we believe our mission is. That's what our department directors believe their mission is. As we go about doing the day-to-day work that administration departments do. From my perspective, when I became the manager, I felt like we've got to do the block and tackle. That's our purpose, municipal service delivery. We have to perfect that. We have to make that as good as we can. And then once we accomplish that, then all the other things that people want to do then can be pursued. So we've always felt we should never compromise that. Clearwater has had a great reputation for municipal services, clean city, quality of life, and then we tried to figure out, okay, are there some other things that need to be done on top of that, not compromising our day-to-day mission. And I believe that has held us in good stead. Obviously, the mayor remembers when he was here before, how we've kind of maintained that. Hamilton was on board back then when I first came on, and then since then, Councilmember Albritton has integrated himself into that same mindset, and he came on board with the very same commitment on making sure that we manage our infrastructure and that we take care of doing the basic things that we have to do. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Michael Maxwell, and he'll talk about implementation work plans. You'll be hearing from our departments. We've asked them to summarize what they are doing so as to move this along and not have it, us take a long time because we do want to hear from you and some of your thoughts based on what you've heard. Oh, and by the way, when we're at the lectern, we're not going to wear a mask. So, yes, sir.
Can I get this screen put up in front of us so we can see it?
Oh, okay. All right.
Is the monitor on or no?
The monitor's on, but we're seeing the council meeting itself. There you go.
All right. Morning. Good morning. We've been doing a lot of evenings, but good morning, Council. Micah Maxwell, Assistant City Manager. I'm going to step through a little bit of why, how we use as staff the strategic direction our work plans to further your strategic direction, and talk a little bit about the structure so we make sure we're all on the same page and you get a context, if you do not already have one, of how that all works with our work plans. The implementation of the strategic direction involves a lot of deliberate long-term planning by our staff, and you know, for that reason, there's some pretty significant long-term impacts if we make some changes to it. It allows us to focus our resources, the plan does, on what matters not only to council but those things that are mandated by the state, the federal, or even the county governments. You know, so some of those things we're required to do, and we have to balance what the council would like to do with what we're required legally to do, and use the resources that we have to do that. The structure of the plan is similar to that of the comprehensive plan. We have some goals which are meant to identify sort of the outcome that supports the city's mission and vision, and our goals, just to move down into the plan itself, for your plan are facilitate development of the economy. And then the second one that was developed was provide cost-effective municipal services and infrastructure. So those are meant to be the overall overarching goals that we look at. There are then the objectives that are meant to support those goals, a little more detailed, and those are connected to those objectives are connected to the goals. Those items are diversify the economic base, right here, increase the economic opportunity. These are the ones below the facilitate development of an economy. Develop and promote our brand and foster community engagement. Those are the elements that are below the facilitate development of the economy goal. So those are the objectives that we have. For providing cost-effective municipal services and infrastructure, we use efficiency, quality, financial responsibility, and safety. And as the departments go through their work plans, we've tried to connect those into those different sections and connect them specifically into the final element, which is the policies. Those are, just to use efficiency as an example, for instance, optimize use of employees' assets and resources, encourage teamwork across departments, and ensure focus on strategic direction, and access public-private organizations and resources when appropriate. Unless you would like me to, I'm not going to go through all of them. There are quite a few policies, but those are the ones that really provide us the detail we need to try to support the goals and objectives that you've defined. So that's kind of how we structure it, or we look at the structure at the very least. The plan, the implementation process isn't necessarily static all the time, and it's very connected across departments. We may have one element in public utilities and another in engineering, and sometimes it takes a lot of coordination between those entities to try to make everything work. So what we're looking, I'm sorry here, I'm a little messed up here. Apologies. Off track there. So what we would like to do now is just to go through the different work plans with the departments. They'll step through, talk about their different work plans, how they connect it, and then Jay will come up at the end, so you get to see him twice, to talk a little bit about what our current financial situation is. And with that, I'll turn it over to, I believe it's CRA is our first department.
We have 19 departments that we're going to be talking about, so we're going to go through them alphabetically. So Mr. Maxwell doesn't have to stand there all morning and introduce each department. I would remind everybody that this really is a 30,000-foot view. This is not the budget. This is trying to put some strategic tissue with the budget and some guidance to the staff so that when we get the budget back, we're not going to be springing anything on them that is an unknown. So with that, we'll start out with the CRA. Ms. Thompson.
Good morning, and thank you to those of you that I was working with last night. So to start off, just 3 things that we want to keep in mind when we're thinking about the CRA and how we work to tie this department into the strategic plan. We have a balance between what I think of as tangible activities, say a facade improvement grant, things that you can visibly see, and intangible, which is the relationships in the community building. So a lot of times, some things that you'd see at this 30,000-foot level, there might not be a direct line budget expenditure for, different meetings that we have, the conversations that we have on a daily basis. Also, the CRA was carved out of economic development and housing in 2016, and since that point in time, we have really changed over staff positions and their roles to better align with the strategic objectives. We created a new position based on public relations and programs to target the branding goals and the community engagement goals. We also created a business assistance administrator to provide that business support to small businesses and help with economic development in that way. Finally, we do our work through partners. We're a staff of 4. There's no way that we directly do everything that you see that's attached to the CRA name. So whether that's our outside organization partners like Amplify Clearwater or other city departments, especially engineering, we love you, who are actually constructing things, we rely on other departments. So with that, under economic base, we're all about redevelopment into multifamily housing and other commercial tax-producing properties. So taking vacant lots and properties and filling them up with tax-paying uses that generate foot traffic, that attract pedestrians. With business-friendly environment, I mentioned the business assistance position. We now have monthly meetings that are on a standing basis where people can come and learn about CRA grant programs, economic development programs, the county programs, because what we see a lot is just an asymmetry of information. One person may know a lot, somebody else has no idea what help is available to them, so we have to spend a lot of time getting the word out. Promoting our brand. We're doing a lot more with advertising the Opportunity Zone and also just different events and programs to let people know what's happening downtown. Under the efficiency, again, part of our strategy is expanding networks, right? People who are invited in to invest in downtown, who can help implement the city's vision across downtown, different partners who have different events, and providing platforms. So you'll see under there, it's not just marketing campaigns or event management, but we staff the Downtown Development Board, which is another way for us to reach business owners. And we have in here the creation of a downtown art center. That's probably not a this year thing, that is probably a next year thing. But that is an important platform to create a community gathering space where you don't necessarily have to go and spend money in order to enjoy downtown. Then with other departments under quality, you can see that these are all the capital improvements that CRA dollars go towards helping to fund. And the last thing I'll say under safety is that we do have an interlocal agreement with the police department to provide community policing. So these are officers on bicycles. Sergeant Fidelis is probably our most visible officer who's out building relationships in the community. All right, that's me.
Any questions for Ms. Thompson? Councilmember Beckman?
So I've gone through the whole 51 pages and have, a number of questions annotated on these things. So I'm not sure if it's appropriate to get into, so much detail. But one question I had was on the top of page 4, where you have provide cost-effective municipal services and infrastructure. It says facilitate redevelopment of privately owned property through marketing campaigns. Like, I just, would like to know what are some examples or what would that look like?
Sure. So what that's building to now is a slide deck where we've asked property owners to provide us with images and information about properties that they want to be redeveloped or spaces that they want to be leased out. And then we have that, so when someone comes, we get the calls typically that say, oh, I'm looking to start this new retail business, or what properties are available for development. Then we can pass along that information. So that's at the most base level, and then ultimately what that will build to, what we were working with Invest Tampa Bay, is an in-person networking event, which I think at this point has been pushed back to September, but these very targeted meet and greet opportunities where we can have the property owners, developers, investors all in the same room sharing information and connecting.
Do you have good participation from property owners who are helping to provide that information so you can market empty storefronts?
We just put that out, so I can't say yet. They haven't had time to respond yet. But based on the food and drink grant experience, you know, we had the majority of property owners initially participated in that grant program, and then not all of them completed it all the way through. But it's tricky. I mean, this is the toughest part of this job, right? Is getting property owners to commit to a vision and a path and move forward.
Other questions?
And
Thank
we
you.
do have this CRA meeting on Monday, so we can dive deep.
And Ms. Sanderson and I were on a 2-hour conference call yesterday with Florida Trend. They are going to be doing an article about Pinellas County and specifically St. Petersburg and Clearwater, and we were talking about the different opportunities throughout the city, not just the CRA, but we're looking forward to that article going well beyond the Tampa Bay region and hopefully attracting new investment. Mr. Warrington.
Thank you. Chuck Warrington, the Executive Director of Clearwater Gas System. Clearwater Gas System is an overview. We're a regional energy provider serving 20 municipalities in 3 counties. We're 13 times the size of the city of Clearwater, extending 45 miles from Reddington Beach to Land O'Lakes. We provide economical, reliable, and environmentally clean, sustainable service. We've been growing under a council-approved strategic work plan, which is linked to the city vision since 1994, and we've tripled in size over that time period. As far as facilitating the development of the economy, developing downtown in US 19, we have natural gas service available throughout downtown and the Greenwood and the Fort Harrison corridor. We've redeveloped our gas complex on the northern edge of the city between here and on the edge of Greenwood. And we've also got service all down US 19 available for all the businesses that are starting to build up along that corridor. As far as encouraging housing, we're residentially focused. We have a neighborhood extension program in Clearwater that been able to add 400 customers.
Chuck, if I could interrupt for 1 second. On the screen, the people that are home are seeing the community redevelopment agency still, so if we could get gas.
Chuck, scroll down.
Just scroll down.
Yeah, oh, okay.
2 pages down, yeah.
All right, so I'll try to keep.
No, I just want the information that's up there to be
Okay,
pertinent.
I'll try to keep up with this being generally in the same area I'm in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and we about 8 years ago, we formed a Clearwater neighborhood extension program, and we've been able to add 400 customers and 20 miles of main in the city of Clearwater over that time period. Shortly after that, we created a system-wide energy neighborhood extension program, and we've been able to add 650 customers and 130 miles of main over that time period. And we've got an extensive builder and developer program where we've got 25 active subdivisions working right now and over 5,000 customers under contract or houses under contract. As far as expanding the tax base, we provide a dividend and a number of other transfer payments to the city. I'm actually going to be covering that next week in the council agenda, so I will not go into detail on that right now. As far as the beach by design, we provide natural gas service throughout the beach. All the streets on the beach are covered with natural gas service. As far as increasing the economic opportunity, get down to there. I think I'm beyond it. In the technology district, we provide, of course, energy alternatives for commercial and industrial customers. We've seen customers like the GE plant come here particularly to get the gas service. And as far as the medical district, one of our first customers of the system back in the 20s was Morton Plant Hospital and the Baycare Hospital. 5 campuses of Baycare Hospital are our largest overall customer to Clearwater Gas. We are an economic development engine for the region, for all those 20 cities and 3 counties. We also support a number of we're community focused, so we support a number of community events for the Chambers, the Phillies and the Threshers, Baycare Morton Plant Hospital Foundation, the Capitol Theater, Habitat for Humanity, Pinellas Education Foundation, Clearwater for Youth, Big Brothers Big Sisters, just to name a few. We provide, as far as providing cost-effective municipal services and infrastructure, down to there. We optimize the use of employees and assets and resources. The Solid Waste Department fuels with CNG their vehicles. They have about 65 trucks that use about 400,000 gallons equivalent of CNG, saving a ton of money for the city. And our light duty trucks for Clearwater Gas System, we have about 40 trucks that use about 30,000 gas gallon equivalents. We've also automated our meter reading system, so we don't have to go in everyone's backyard to read their meter on a regular basis. We've converted to a paperless technologies in a number of areas. We use field tablets for collection of data, and we're constantly evaluating new software systems for work orders and service requests. As far as emerging gas technologies, the Morningside Rec Center has we installed 8 natural gas air conditioning units, Yanmar units, 120 tons of air conditioning, and we've also got Yanmar units at our complex, as well as some Tecogen, about 160 tons of air conditioning, with gas air conditioning at our complex. We're working with engineering on the Coachman Commons evaluation, our staff productivity. We've been able, I just finished the analysis, we have improved our customer served per employee by an average of 3.3% per year over the last 19 years. So we think that's an important aspect of what we do. We're doing a rate study right now to make sure our rates are in line. We do that at least every 5 years, and we have an active program of buying gas at the best rates possible. We've saved about $1.5 million for our customers in the last year. We're 62% cheaper than electricity for a typical residential customer, which is a big part of our fiscal responsibility that we have. And as far as safety, we have a regulatory codes compliant position we created. We do safety messages at all internal meetings as the opening of the meeting. We have an accident review board that reviews and looks at every accident to see whether we can do something to improve that over time. We maintain compliance documents. We're regulated by the Florida Public Service Commission, who comes in and does safety evaluations, and we're expecting them next month probably to be here again. And we do skills training for all our field employees. So in summary, our vision is to be the energy provider of choice for our customers, providing economical, reliable, environmentally friendly, and sustainable service with a focus on the community.
Any questions for Mr. Warrington? Councilmember Beckman.
Thank you for being here and your complete report. I had if we look at the first page of your statement, you're reporting, you're talking about these energy efficiencies here, and I think that's great. One thing that's important to me as a council member that I would like to see throughout is when we're saving money, each department is saving money with efficiencies or converting to natural gas vehicles. I think it's great to quantify that with a dollar amount and really celebrate that and report that out to our residents. So I hope that, we can do that. And then the other comment is about under encouraging teamwork across departments, and you've got for Coachman Commons to showcase the kitchen stage park amenities with gas, and I would also hope that we could look into if there are more efficient, greener options, and just report out what those cost-benefit analysis would be for Coachman Commons down there. And then on the last part where you've got natural gas can be cheaper than electric, alternative 62% savings for our customers. And I think it's just important to keep in mind that there are always newer technologies, and we always need to keep evaluating that cost-benefit analysis, and that, that line is starting to come together. So, it's just something that I'm aware of, efficiencies are happening, and we need to just stay on top of them.
Thank you very much. That's really important to us.
Chuck, can you just, especially for the two new council members, there was a time when we weren't really expanding gas in the city of Clearwater much. It was mostly up into Pasco, where it's easier when it's greenfield development. But we have made a commitment to getting gas to more and more of Clearwater. Can you cover that very briefly?
Yeah, that was really important. When I first got here, that was, one of the first thing our strategic plan said was we could make money, a lot of money expanding in Pasco County. We got a lot of kickback from from particularly the countryside community, which had been excluded because of some prior deals with a developer in that area, and and gas lines were not put there. And we worked extensively with Mr. Horn. That was a focal area, and we said, well, what can we do? And we created a fund, this Clearwater Neighborhood Extension Program, and the first area was to put the gas mains on the main streets of countryside, and we now, or every countryside customer is available to have gas, and we've done the same thing in Coachman Ridge neighborhood and a couple of other neighborhoods. So that CNEP program has been a real vehicle to allow the city Clearwater customers, and we combine that with our system-wide program. So you get 300 feet of gas main under our CNEP program and another 300 under the system-wide program. So any customer that's within 600 feet of our main can get service in their home as long as they install a couple of gas appliances.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Economic development and housing. Morning, Denise.
So the Economic Development and Housing Department is comprised of 11 employees and is divided into two divisions, Economic Development and Affordable Housing, and is bridged by Community Development. So the department's goals and objectives are guided by the city's current strategic direction, which we're talking about today, as well as our Economic Development Strategic Plan, our Consolidated Plan, our Local Housing Assistance Plan, and the funding source requirements and federal, state, and county requirements of those federal sources, state and county sources. Priorities are structured around economic development, community development, which includes affordable housing, and redevelopment activities are consistent with council's strategic vision, include activities surrounding diversifying the economy, increasing economic opportunity, developing and promoting our brand, fostering community engagement, and remaining focused on ensuring efficiency, quality, financial responsibility, and safety. So a brief description of some of the activities that we take on. We are focused on primary industry. The Economic Development Division identifies primary industries as those businesses that sell the majority of their goods or services outside the Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater MSA. Examples often include manufacturers, headquarters, IT software, finance, insurance, and others. Primary industries generate wealth for the community by importing money, which is the sale of goods or services, and they typically pay above average wages and salaries. As a result, the economic impact of these types of businesses in a community is greater than many other types that pay wages or lower wages or serve local markets. The Hercules area is generally bounded by the Sunset Point Road, Belcher Road, Keene Road, and Drew Street, and is the center of industrial activity for Clearwater. Both heavy industrial and light industrial is comprised of that area, and uses are common and provide very significant economic impacts, including direct employment with above average wages and indirect through supply chain, and induce the additional spin-off that result from those types of jobs. US 19 corridor is another area of focus of ours, of course, and as a result of the adoption of the US 19 zoning district and development standards, the US 19 corridor provides the greatest economic opportunity, I believe, over the long term. As a major north-south corridor in the county, the corridor is ripe for redevelopment. Challenges, however, surrounding transportation, known and perceived contamination in single zoning category allows multiple uses, so the race is on for us to develop primary industry ahead of those less impactful developments. In terms of tourism, as the city's top economic driver, the department contracts with a PR firm and engages tourism operators to encourage active participation in the PR firm's efforts to market the destination and bring journalists to the area. In downtown, the department works in collaboration with the CRA to identify economic development opportunities and challenges. Joint marketing initiatives include contracts with 83 Degrees Media, Invest Tampa Bay is Awesome, and others. Economic Development and Housing also uses its channels of communication to support and promote CRA activities and events. And when appropriate, the department utilizes CRA funds as an incentive. The Opportunity Zone was designated under federal legislation, and the Census Tract 259 is located in the downtown area and areas south of Clearwater. The tract is generally bounded by Drew Street, Missouri Ave, Lakeview Ave, and the waterfront. The department has a landing page on the city's website, and we're the designated point of contact. Because this area also overlaps the CRA, we work very well with the CRA on fielding inquiries. In terms of small business development, Clearwater Business Spark, which launched in 2015, is comprised now of 10 partners. Additional partners are likely to be added to the network in this next year. The network supports small businesses and entrepreneurs in every stage of growth. All businesses and entrepreneurs are able to take advantage of the services, regardless of whether or not they are within the city of Clearwater or primary industry. In terms of brownfields, the department oversees the activities of the Brownfield program. Unfortunately, we just learned that our application to the EPA was not supported this year. But we do field inquiries, and we provide access to federal, state, and FDEP, EPA, and DEO for brownfield-related incentives. In terms of neighborhood revitalization, the department is engaged in community development and neighborhood revitalization activities in areas identified by our HUD consolidated plan as neighborhood revitalization strategy areas. The NRSAs surround Lake Bellevue, Downtown Gateway, and the North Greenwood areas. And in this year and in the coming years, we'll continue to be engaged in the Lake Bellevue Task Force, North Greenwood, including working with community leaders on the formation of a potential CRA, and the Downtown Gateway, providing public engagement and support for Streetscape Phase 3 and the development of the Mercado or Festival Core. In terms of homelessness, the city's homeless initiative, which was developed in 2012, addresses the nationwide epidemic at the local level. It's become a multi-departmental approach to identify trends, address immediate concerns, and to engage development of long-term solutions. The initiative also includes engagement of homeless service providers, the active involvement of Continuum of Care, now known as Homeless Leadership Alliance, and the education of all employees during employee orientation. And last but definitely not least is affordable housing. The activities related to affordable housing are the most challenging for the department, as federal and state regulations require significant, timely, and diverse documentation. Programs include subsidizing workforce and affordable housing development projects and providing loans to qualifying Clearwater citizens for down payment assistance and rehabs of owner-occupied homes. Currently, the division manages about 465 loans, totaling about $17 million. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Sanderson? Ms. Beckman?
Hi, Denise.
Hello.
Thank you for being here. I have a question about what is the Lake Bellevue Task Force and the Homeless Task Force?
Sure. The Lake Bellevue Task Force is actually modeled similarly from the Homeless Task Force. So I'll start first with the Homeless Task Force. It was founded in 2012, following recommendations made by consultant Dr. Robert Marbut. And so it's multi-departmental. So departments who are engaged are homeless individuals, whether it's Parks and Rec, solid waste, library personnel, etc. Multi-department. So we meet on a bi-monthly basis to talk about the challenges, observations we're seeing in the community, ways to address those. And it's a terrific medium for us to be able to work together to solve really complex problems. Similarly, the Lake Bellevue Task Force was formed a few years ago, and it is comprised of multiple departments, and we work collaboratively to address some of the challenges out there. And the reason we formed that task force was we see an aging leadership or a lack of leadership in that community due to aging. And so we saw a lot of criminal activity, drug-related activity out there that we wanted to get our hands around and really try to sort of support that community in solving their own problems by developing leadership and keeping our finger on the pulse.
Are things improving? Do you feel?
In some areas, I think we'll continue to be challenged in that neighborhood for quite some time. But, I think that happens in many communities over time as things transition, and so.
Miranda Douglas is a leader in that community.
Yes, she is.
Doing good things, so that's good.
Yeah, we work with her quite a bit.
Yeah, she's fantastic. And then, one thing, again, like, I guess I mentioned to Mr. Lane, is measuring and improving our performance is just reporting out, to residents, like on some kind of a dashboard for each department. What are we doing, and what are those numbers, and how are we making progress? Because I know departments are, and I just think it's nice to be able to champion and celebrate and report out the positive things that are happening. So I don't know if that's available now and I'm missing it, or if it's just something that we could do.
I think when it comes to certain aspects of our work, it comes to you and to the community in different ways, and very often it's under regulated ways, right? So the consolidated annual performance evaluation report in December, the keeper,
Yeah.
the local, the state SHIP report that comes to you in early September. So we seem to constantly be chasing reports in order to assemble and get that information out. And so unfortunately, to your point, it's delivered in ways that are disparate or don't.
Not easily digestible, right?
They're not, yeah, admittedly so.
Well, Mr. Tiemann carried the Bellevue community for a long time, but it shows how important neighborhoods need to build a bench as people kind of move on and age and whatnot. So thank you, Denise. Engineering?
Good morning. Tara Covet, Engineering Director. Sorry, let me scroll down. All right, engineering. Engineering is a department of about 137 FTEs. Our main mission is to support other departments within the city and to take care of the right-of-way. We're the keepers of the right-of-way. So specifically to support the city's mission, I'll highlight how we do that. In support of the economic development, specifically in downtown and the US 19 corridor, like engineering does for all departments, we support we manage the design and construction of city projects, promoting development. We strive to complete these projects on time, under budget, in a sustainable fashion, while focusing on improved energy efficiencies and viable long-term operation and maintenance costs. Specific projects include, as you see here, Cleveland Streetscape Phase 3. That's the portion east of Missouri. The Mercado Festival Core, which is part of that project. Downtown wayfindings, which also includes some signage on US 19. We're combining the projects. Of course, Imagine Clearwater that everyone's aware of. A newer project we're starting to work on, the RFQ is going to hit the street soon for design, is a whole reconstruction of the Fort Harrison corridor, including all the underground infrastructure, and that will include some complete street elements, the main library renovations, and of course the new city hall. Let me scroll down. And of course, the bulk of our mission is to maintain the infrastructure and provide municipal services. And some of the highlights that we've done, working on recently, we're supporting Gina in planning development on working on a business review process to enhance the building permit process. Of course, you've seen some improved parking efficiencies. Late last year, early this year, you've noticed we've done the whole LPR program out at the beach. We're standardizing parking rates and hours. We're moving to those getting rid of the single space old-fashioned meters and moving to the kiosks and allowing, encouraging the community to use Park mobile apps and pay online. Our next phase will be transitioning all of that to downtown, so you'll see that coming shortly. And as I already mentioned, we manage the city's interests in the public right-of-way, including easements and vacations. We recently implemented an online right-of-way permit review and submittal process, so that's really freed up staff. We're always struggling on filling vacancies, so we want to improve our recruitment and our succession planning. And our CAD and GIS use latest technologies to support all departments. They're frequently the ones doing the visuals that you see at city council work sessions and meetings. And then, of course, we're managing more projects out beyond the ones in downtown in 19, and those include the fire station out at the beach, Fire Station 46, Fire Station 47 at the new location on Hercules. We're managing the Countryside Police Substation, and then, of course, many infrastructure projects in support of public utilities, and Dave will touch on those a little bit later. We have some storm improvement projects coming up. We manage annual maintenance contracts for resurfacing, sidewalk, curbing, basically anything in the right-of-way. We inspect and maintain work in the public right-of-way, both from city projects and for commercial work, anything related to traffic, parking, storm. Our GIS group maintains a huge database of city infrastructure that's available online. Consultants use it for design and private firms. In support of financial responsibility, we manage the National Flood Insurance Program and Community Rating System, which has helped local residents, resulting in reduced flood insurance premiums. As far as, that's all. Yeah, that's missing something. We're supporting the Cooper's Point Bayou project, working with many different departments in that arena. So you'll see that work starting to come soon. And managing the Tree Bank Fund. So that's it. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Kivett? Cooper's Point was up at the top of your
okay,
list.
sorry, yeah, there it is.
It's up there, it's in there. Councilmember Beckman.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor Hibbard. This kind of echoes Mayor Hibbard's statement at the beginning about, I feel that there's kind of a gaping hole in here related to environmental stewardship. And so I would just think that, especially with the engineering department managing city projects, that we've got managed planning, design, and construction phases of the fire stations, the police substation, imagine Clearwater. That's where that green print ideals and all that stuff can be brought in. And I know we'll focus on that.
And we look at that and include that in all of our project design. We probably need to be better at highlighting it and getting it out to the public, to be honest. And then Sheridan is also working on a citywide, I wouldn't call it specification, but like kind of protocols of things to consider each time different departments are working on new projects.
Because ideally, to me, that would be fantastic, as in, for each one of these departments, we have, the last subsection is, after provide cost-effective services or whatever, we have, sustainability and environmental stewardship. And then each department would be, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. And we're doing more than you realize.
And again, and I think a lot of people are, like even the gas department, converting to clean natural gas, not really clean, but reporting out those savings, right? And celebrating those things, those good things that we're doing.
Yes. That does take additional resources and time, obviously, so.
Thank you so much.
I think we'll be more conscious of the way that we do advertise that. So Vice Mayor and then Councilmember Hamilton.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Sheridan, her job is to really communicate with all departments. She's just not a separate department. She is with engineering, and anything that has to do, that should be her focus, and I've talked to her about that she gets in there and actually with every department and works hand in hand. So maybe in something like this, we should celebrate it more, that's actually what's happening. So thank you.
Councilmember
Well,
Hamilton.
I think the point I want to make is, while we don't have the environmental sustainability language maybe where it needs to be right now, I can tell you that anybody who submits a plan to do something in this city has those issues questioned and addressed in whatever you're trying to do. I can tell you that from personal experience going on right now. Just because it's not written doesn't mean it's not being done, and people need to be aware of that.
Mayor, if I could make one comment.
Yes, sir.
Specifically as it relates to Sheridan Ball, she is not a gatekeeper. And so I just want to make it clear to those who may be listening, thinking that the sustainability coordinator, is playing that kind of a role. She's not playing that kind of a role. And we really want her involved in the early stages where we're conceptualizing the work to be done, to where she can really give us the best benefit of her, experience. But I just wanted to clarify that.
Very good. Thanks, Ms. Kivett. Mr. Ravens, Finance.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Jay Ravens, Finance Director. The Finance Department's primary emphasis is supporting the Council's strategic direction goal to provide cost-effective municipal services and infrastructure. Finance assists with the strategic objective of optimization of employees, assets, and resources via management of the budget process, financial analysis, financial reporting, purchasing, payroll, and risk management administration, cash investment and debt management, and related support activities. Current year implementation of a new capital project, planning, budgeting, and performance measurement software, as well as a new HR payroll system, will assist in these efforts. Finance enhances strategic direction efforts citywide via support activities, including support and oversight of the budget process, the financial and payroll systems, the purchasing process, the payroll process, and support and guidance on risk management and employee safety. Finance assists in the maintenance and in reinvestment in our infrastructure, strategic objective, via management of the budget process for capital and operating budgets, management and reconciliation of capital asset records citywide, and debt management activities for financing of capital projects. An emphasis on financial responsibility is accomplished via the creation of citywide standards related to purchasing, payroll, cash handling, risk management, safety, and accounting activities and processes. Additionally, the city's compliance with financial regulations and policies is managed and monitored via the city's annual external audit of the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or CAFR, debt administration, including comprehensive rating agency reviews for outstanding debt, regularly scheduled utility rate studies to proactively manage and maintain the utilities and support the rating agency reviews and related bond ratings, and compliance with property tax regulations, including annual truth and millage or TRIM requirements. Overall, the Finance Department's focus is on providing timely, accurate support to departments citywide while verifying compliance with legal requirements and city policy and procedures, with the goal to make city operations more efficient and effective. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Ravens? Councilmember Beckman.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbert. Do we have any kind of a employee program where we encourage people to be creative in ways to save money? Do we incentivize any of that creativity?
We have had in the past. I don't know that we have anything currently in place for
That's an HR question.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Okay, would you?
okay. I'll wait. Yeah, sorry.
We have had programs. It's a
Yeah.
little bit, we discussed that at length at one point. We believe that's incumbent upon all employees, especially that know their job better than I do, better than all of us up here, because they do it on a daily basis. But actually giving an incentive started to run into some issues. That was, I think we were looking at that in 08, 09.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were looking to squeeze every dollar, but we can still discuss it with HR. Any other questions for Mr. Ravens? He'll be back when we get to the overview of the budget. All right, thank you. Chief Ellers. Fire.
Morning, Mayor, Council. Scott Ellis, Fire Chief, Clearwater Fire Rescue. Let me get this up. So,
Not supposed to yell fire in a building, are you?
yes, sir. The fire department consists of 204 FTEs, and our major component, our response is for emergency response. And under safety is where it's listed, and that is really the biggest thing, is to be able to respond to those emergency within the 7.5-minute total response time. And everything else we look in the strategic plan really revolves around that. When we look at the fostering community engagement, I'm proud to say that we have a fire station in just about every one of our communities, and it is a focal point. And it is so encouraging to hear when a citizen calls for whatever reason, and they say, my fire station or our fire station, and that to me really exemplifies that community engagement. In regards to efficiency, we try to optimize the use of the employees and the resources. For instance, in this current year, we identified budget savings in the CIP components, which was a ladder truck that we could not come back and say, I need a third ladder truck for at $1.4 million. But also because we took steps earlier in previous years, like on the medic units, which are the smaller response units for EMS, we're saving on the larger rescues that are utilized in some other areas. The other things that we're doing is this year we're also trying to pilot our training center. At the county level, the North County fire municipalities are having a problem with their training center getting to the middle of the county and then getting back to their local areas in a reasonable time without a degradation of their service. So we actually worked with them to use our facility again so we're not asking the county to support something else in the northern end. But again, we also had the community risk reduction, and also the strategically locate our stations for the best response. And the upcoming year, we have Fire Station 47, which we're trying to move. We bought the land there at Hercules, right across from the high school. And we just don't do that because it seems to find the property. We strategically look at that because of the response, and I'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about accreditation. And it sort of fell right into that piece of property for 47 and that community. Encouraging teamwork across the departments. We work with Parks and Rec, again, working right now with Parks and Rec to determine the best approach for our lifeguards, but also working close relationships with our other public safety entity, and that's the police department. As a reminder, we partner with Pinellas County. They do provide part of our budget. As you see in the numbers there's a conservative numbers of past performance. But the total fire budget is about $12.5 million. It has been. Now this year it's going to be a little bit different. And part of that is that ALS budget, which is $6.5 million. So from the fire budget, they pay the percentage of what the unincorporated county that we protect was about 11%, and that changes throughout. But the ALS portion of it, ALS budget, is they pay for specific positions on our ALS units in that aspect of it. The other thing we did this year that is to work with our other surrounding municipalities, and during this COVID, conditions, we were able to work with Largo and Safety Harbor, break down a lot of the barriers that we had with municipalities, and have a unified approach for all three municipalities in that aspect of it. That has been put on hold, to follow up, that has been put on hold because we haven't seen the number of responses. But we meet weekly to discuss what the numbers are doing and the analytical aspect of it to make sure that if it starts to spike again, we can get that unit back in service. Quality-wise, we actively try and maintain and reinvest in our infrastructure. We have the replacement schedule for our engines and ladder trucks and rescues. And then you see the numbers for this upcoming potential year in regards to what we need. The other two are the fire stations, as mentioned earlier, Fire Station 46 and 47. And those are going through the process right now. I will echo your point, Councilmember Beckman. And Tara's, we've been working with Tara's team. That Fire Station 46 has been a tremendous challenge just because of its location. The FEMA requirements, the county requirements, and the city requirements on trying to provide the best facility there, but also my requirements on trying to provide that best community station that the community interacts with as they do on the North Beach. It's been challenging. The biggest one here is the next one, continuous measure improve, is the reaccreditation, the Center for Public Safety Accreditation that we'll be going through in 2021. I can't exemplify that enough for the folks out there as well as for you to be proud of the fact that we are an accredited department. That process itself lends to exactly what we're doing here, and that is that strategic planning, and that our strategic plan coincides with the city's strategic plan, but also what our standard of cover is, and an in-depth self-assessment of our department that covers the entire gamut of what we do, why we do it, and show me that you're doing that. With that, again, I think I mentioned this a couple of times to other council members. Out of the 30,000 fire departments in the nation, there's only 284 that are accredited. Okay, that if you do the math, that's a very small minute. Okay, we're proud to be one of those 284. But more importantly, we're proud of the fact that we're also an ISO rating of 1. If you take that 284 other departments that are accredited, only 95 are an ISO, they're accredited and an ISO rating of 1. If you take that another step further, that I'm also proud of, we're going through it for our 4th time. There's very, very few that can meet all those requirements, and we hope to meet those requirements in 2021 as we move forward. The last component, again, I talked about this already, that is our response to calls for service, and that 7.5-minute response time, total response time. But then the biggest thing here that I think you have seen, and we all have seen over the last several months, the new challenges that emergency management has dealt with. We, if I may say, the Chief Graham, along with the other city departments and administration, has done a yeoman's job in navigating the uncertain waters that we're going through in this pandemic. Remember, we're only in the 2nd inning of a 9-inning game. There's more challenges in front of us that we're going to have to face and figure out, as well as we're in the storm season, and we have that going on. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I hope citizens understand what that accreditation and ISO rating really means. It means we're going to respond faster and better than most departments, and it also means that their insurance rates should be lower than other municipalities, and that's how it really hits the bottom line and is a value to our citizens. So if people are watching out there, they should be very proud and pleased due to the cost savings. So questions for the chief? Councilmember Beckman.
I just had to thank you for reporting out the cost savings on the deferred or removed, ladder truck and medic unit and stuff. The deferred means it is coming in the future, right?
Well, okay. The ladder truck, no. Because that is we actually are going to be taking delivery on a new ladder truck this year, but it's, I can't come back to you and say, hey, I need a 3rd ladder truck when I don't need one right now. But eventually, they all meet their schedule, so eventually it gets put back on, that's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Support. Human Resources.
Good morning, Jennifer Poyer, Human Resources Director. I'll get HR up here. So the majority of human resources goals and objectives for this year and always are under the efficiency and financial sustainability portion of the strategic plan. Our mission is to support an inclusive, diverse, motivated, and dedicated workforce, and we do that through having policies, programs, services, and benefits that aim to amplify our individual and organizational potential. And throughout this program, we did supply an exhaustive list of things that we are working on to support that mission. The big ones I'll highlight. We are finishing up our compensation and classification study. So that was rolled out and put into place in October of last year, and we're wrapping that up with an appeals process and making sure that we're communicating and then maintaining a pay plan that is competitive for our workforce. Mr. Ravens mentioned the Municipal program. That's a very large project for us in terms of it's an HRIS system and a payroll system, and so that's going to provide a lot of efficiencies and better reporting for the organization as well. This year we will be negotiating the CWA contract, and next year we will have both police and fire contracts. And so during those negotiation processes, obviously we want to make sure that our contracts are reflective of the things that are important to us. And so those are significant projects. Another very significant project that we are working on is going to kick off this year and will stretch out over multiple years is our ADA transition plan. This plan has not been updated since the 90s. It is required that we have an updated plan to continue to have to be able to receive federal funding. And so that's going to be a very large project that will require a lot of inter-departmental working together to see that program through. And then the last two are our wellness programming. Obviously, for example, things like COVID that happened, we try very hard to be nimble and kind of change our direction to be able to provide our employees what it is that we need. We do have our employee health center that has been a really great partnership, especially through COVID right now. So that's something else that we will continue to develop and see what other services that we can offer through our employee health center. And then lastly is our diversity and inclusion training. That was obviously significantly derailed because of the COVID. However, with the other things that are going on around the country, it's something that we are very focused on. We are working together with the city manager's office to have some statements come out and then figuring out how it is that we can provide that training without being able to get the big groups together, but it's still being meaningful, and we feel like that's something that's important to do in person. So we will be working on that as well. Lastly, we try very hard to engage our employees to make sure that they are educated and communicate with them on all the programs that are available to them. We do have a lot of different things because we know not one thing matches or will be what motivates everybody. We do have several committees that we partnership with, such as our Wellness Champions, the Diversity Leadership Council, we have a Benefits Committee, we have a Civil Service Board, and then pension trustees. And so we try very hard to make sure that we are engaging those committees and that they have the information to also bring out to the employees to help keep them engaged and educated on our programs. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Beckman?
Was there going to be an addressing of the incentive for,
Yeah, so we do not currently have an incentive program necessarily that incentivizes employees in terms of for budget reduction stuff. But we do have a recognition program, so we have found that to be more effective. There, with the union or union contracts and stuff like that, to have an incentivized program is a challenge, and just making sure that that is managed appropriately and who determines what applies. And so we found just having a better luck with our recognition programs to where, our peers are submitting, for different ideas and suggestions, and so providing that recognition for those employees that are doing that. So we do have a program to recognize that kind of stuff, but not through incentives, it's through recognition.
I don't necessarily think of incentives as being monetary always. I mean, maybe they can be something else but, and then I had do we do exit interviews of them? Okay, because yeah, I think that's valuable. I didn't,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. IT.
Mayor, Council, I guess we're doing this. So information technology, as you know, is an internal service. I'm Dan Mayer, IT Director. So most of our work plan is the byproduct of the initiatives of the departments we support. We do not have a lot of direct public-facing responsibility apart from the infrastructure or the tool sets they use, and they're usually represented through the programs and projects and operations of the other departments. We do participate along with them in all of these initiatives. You know, as a general overview, I would use the phrases affordable, predictable, and resilient in terms of how we characterize or evaluate any of the systems that we use. Customer satisfaction is both a paramount objective and honestly one of the more elusive objectives that we have because we are a change agent and we represent instability in the sense of getting workers to be productive and consistently at ease with the technology that we use. But as we go down and some of the initiatives that we are doing, we have invested heavily in our infrastructure for data backhauling. We'll be adding cameras in the downtown area, and that's probably one of the few initiatives we have under the Facilitate Development of the Economy. That's in conjunction with both CRA and the police department. It extends both surveillance and provides some amenity along with wireless capacity in those parts of the city. And then obviously we support the infrastructure and the service provision of our internet services, primarily through all the different products that we use. But when we get into efficiency, you know, I'm referencing the departments. These are major objectives and initiatives they have, whether it's police AI, customer service improvements, the overhaul of the financial systems. We were very stable on the Ross financial system for more than 25 years, which was a very healthy relationship. Through mergers and acquisitions, they changed to a much more venture capital mindset, and they stopped calling us by name. We were just a number. So we thought it'd be good to move on. And then we mentioned HR. Quality will participate through the direction of Michael Delk to provide the technology infrastructure to make the Imagine investment relevant and current in terms of technology and functionality. We have very big initiatives starting now with public utilities to upgrade their infrastructure and their systems. We first introduced technology in the utilities area on an asset management enterprise-wide basis in the early 2000s, and we've used a product that is now owned by Oracle after 3 acquisitions that has mixed reviews, but they've changed as an organization too. When we first introduced the technology, they didn't want to use it, and there was a lot of inertia there, and now we're competent enough, and we've literally gone through a generation of employees, and the expectations and the competencies are different in that department. So we'll be reevaluating both their needs and their objectives when we do that. We did create an internal process review program through the manager's office. This is spearheaded by Micah Maxwell and Michael Delk, where they have some resources and we can go into any of the business units and do a full review of both their requirements for technology, their business process practices, and compare that to both best practices and whatever the industry standards are at the time. And that has helped us with that, with buying better products and providing better service. A huge area of growth for us and a preoccupation, quite frankly, is the area of security, both the investments to protect individual users as well as the enterprise has been a preoccupation over the last couple of years with the prevalence of hacking and being elevated from rogue individuals to rogue states, which is just a different scope of concern. So
Can you expand on that? I mean, there have been cities that literally have been held ransom with ransomware.
Yeah, I don't like talking about it too much because I think I'm going to jinx myself. But it is just the advent of technology and the accessibility with more and more things going online, states have figured out that they can interrupt and disrupt the activities of other powers or other agents by not allowing them normal operational capacities. And the internet is both a wonderful thing, but it makes accessibility an intrusion, a possibility where it wasn't before. We don't have to send warships, we just send a computer virus, and we can achieve the same level of disruption if we can get in. So there are those agents, there are domestic agents, individuals and groups who like wreaking havoc, who don't like the government or what we represent, and there are people, there's still the stereotype of the bored teenager who's up all night eating popcorn and working on the computer, which exists to a degree. But I think most people have a much more nefarious intent when they do that type of thing. And then there's just simple and pure profit gain. So I lock up your systems, we encrypt them all, you pay me, I give you the encryption key, it may or may not work, but I got my money and we're good to go. And the process of tracking them down usually involves federal agencies as well. It isn't easy to do. And even if you get to a location, finding the person who was on the other side of the screen and the keyboard at the time the event occurred is an equally dubious task. So it's just a more dynamic place we live in. And we architect our systems and apply applications and tools that try to minimize that risk, but it's never, it's a moving target and it's just more of a vigilance initiative.
I'd like to talk about that more offline.
Okay, very good. And in the area of safety, this brings us down to the resiliency priority that we have. You know, we've built a lot of infrastructure that makes us a little less reliant on third parties. As we know, we've experienced in hurricanes, we're relying on internet providers, power companies, telephone companies, people who do other things that if they don't work really inconvenience our ability to execute and respond to our citizens in a meaningful and efficient manner. We have deployed a lot of fiber. We're going to be working on some mutual aid and mutual agreements with counties that allow us a little more resiliency in terms of the protection of our data and the sustainability of our system so they're accessible when we need to. We learned some things during COVID. Our core systems responded well, but it really focused us on the edge portion of the resiliency to the individual employee. And the number of factors we were forced to evaluate in doing that in conjunction with HR and finance and others. So it's constantly evolving, and I think technology is changing. We're also mindful of the future, taking into account sustainability and green initiatives, decisions such as the computer lease, and doing as many things paperlessly as possible are relevant. One of the initiatives we keep in mind with my management group is how many CPUs do we deploy to an individual? And when you get into 6, 7, or 8 CPUs per individual, that's an inefficiency. There will be a day, I dream of it, where we'll have 1 CPU per person. And that versatility of that CPU, likely in the form factor of your phone that would plug in, will allow you the same level of functionality wherever you go or whatever the setting is. So those are the types of things industry-wide that we look at. But any other questions you have, I'll be happy to answer.
Vice Mayor?
Just a comment. I've always been amazed with your department and how it changes on a daily basis. And you really have a big job of keeping not only individuals safe in the city, but the city safe. And, it's just amazing that every day there's something new that comes up and you have to find it and tackle it and make sure that we're safe.
I appreciate the comments. I would also argue that a lot of that rests with your department directors and their field managers. The ability to adapt to that technology or exploit the technology for their advantage correlates more closely with their ability to manage the individual employees, get them to embrace change, and then sustain that. We've had a lot of initiatives where we do well in the beginning and then it peters out. So making good decisions on what we invest in and then using the product of that investment. And that lies with the departments. And we've had some great successes and we've had some marginal successes. I don't look at anything as a total failure in some instances, because we've literally had departments where we've introduced technology for the first time. When I first took over the job, there were departments that worked almost exclusively in paper, except for the few folks who had to enter payroll or requisitions. So we've come a long way in the last 15, 20 years as an enterprise.
Other questions? Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Library, Ms. Obermeyer?
Good morning, Jennifer Obermeyer, Library Director. Yeah, thank you. Jumping down to foster and community engagement, preserving community history and culture. That's been a big focus area for us for many, many years. I always say if we don't preserve our local history, nobody else will. So we do that by digitizing local historical materials. We partner with the Historical Society, Heritage Village, other partners, and what we do is digitize. We upload the images and articles to a what we call a Pinellas Memory website that can be accessed globally by anybody with a computer. We also have been digitizing city departments.
You're going to move the...
Scroll it down.
Oh.
Scroll it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Multitasking. We've been digitizing city departments' historical materials as requested. So this has been a big focus area for us, and we feel it's very, very important to continue that. Also, too, Clearwater has a high percentage of Hispanic community. So we have a Hispanic Outreach Services program, and we have dedicated 2 Hispanic liaisons, and what they do is provide outreach to the Hispanic community as well as in-house programs. And they've been very successful, and it's a way to maintain contact with their cultural needs. Under support, community events. Of course, we are very focused on providing a lot of outreach opportunities. We participate in a lot of city-sponsored community events and various other community events within the city. So, and it's just a way to, we call it a pop-up mobile library, and it's a way to market our services and to reach people that maybe don't necessarily use our resources or don't know about our resources. And then we have a strong partnership with local schools. We provide story times and at schools and daycare facilities. We participate in fairs, college preparation workshops, and other events hosted by local schools. Jumping down to efficiency. We're always looking for ways to be more efficient with staff and our processes. We've been using RFID technology for many years. It really has decreased the workflow for staff. We can check in and check out items in bulk using this technology. We have self-checkouts, so we focus on self-service if customers would like that. We also have in face-to-face services as well. A new focus for us, we have the technology to actually provide library card registrations during outreach events. So people don't have to come into the library to get a card. We can actually register them now using our database to provide cards out in the community. And this helps with, either non-users who don't have cards or they don't have easy access to one of our library locations. Under encourage teamwork across departments, as you know, we continue to host city council chambers, the main library for all city meetings. We also host meeting space for other city departments and public meetings. And we continue to be a major partner in Business Spark to support businesses and entrepreneurs. So, jumping down to quality. Let me see. We're always looking at our facilities to make sure that they are safe and clean, so we replace and update our furniture, fixtures, and equipment system-wide as needed. And then our main library renovation is part of the Clearwater's, Madden Clearwater's Downtown Enhancement Project. We continuously measure and improve our performance. We provide, obviously, physical materials for users, and also for many, many years, we provide electronic resources, what we call remote resources, that you can be sitting on your couch and still use the library through ebooks, audiobooks, e-magazines, streaming movies and music. So even if the library is closed, you have access to the library services 24/7, anywhere. And then, of course, we continue to evaluate our physical materials by weeding and purchasing new materials and identifying collection gaps to meet communities' needs. And lastly, a big focus area for us in the last 5 or 6 years has been the maker movement. If you haven't heard about that before, it's basically an interactive hands-on learning. We call them maker studios here at Maine. We have 4 studios that focus on technology, software and hardware, things such as 3D printing, augmented reality, computers with specialized software. And then also we have studios that focus on arts, and then a studio that supports the school's STEM initiative. These studios have been very successful, and we continue to enhance them and grow them as needed. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Questions for Ms. Obermeyer? Councilmember Beckman.
Sure. I love your idea of the Maker's Station, Maker's Mark. We had it at the school I taught. But I have, are the Maker Studios and the library's non-traditional collection of items to check out, are those available at all libraries? Or is it mostly this one?
Most of our Maker Studios are here at the main library. We are adding elements of the Maker movement to our branches. So we have scanning stations at other branches, 3D printers at other branches, but it's not as robust as what we have here at Maine. The other one that, and this is kind of unrelated, we do circulate non-traditional items like some tools, board games, even telescopes, various different types of non-traditional library materials. Been very popular.
If somebody, so are those non-traditional items housed like here? Because this is the biggest?
Those are system-wide.
Okay.
Yes.
So people can pick them up at the North Greenwood Library, the Countryside Library? They don't have to come here? Fantastic.
They just have to return them wherever they checked them out. They have to return them there.
Fair. That's great. That's a fantastic thing.
Councilmember Bunker.
Yes, this isn't a question, but as someone who, one of my first jobs back in high school was working at our public library in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I've always been a big fan of libraries. I'm so impressed by the wide variety of services that we have here. I mean, the fact that you can get a tool if you need it is remarkable. And I remember for my library, I was allowed to make a Super 8 sound movie to promote the children's library program. I could bring that in here and turn it into a digital copy.
Absolutely.
It's just amazing the resources that we have for people.
And proudly, everything, we don't charge for any of our services, so it's all free. Just, especially in the Heritage Studio, it just takes your time to do it. But then we have multiple formats that you can digitize, VHS and 8mm and any type of format. As technology just moves forward, so providing oral history stations at our locations to capture community stories.
Okay.
And we put them on a flash drive for them to keep, or if they give us permission, we can upload those to our website, the Pinellas Memory website.
Because some of the history that some of the folks that we interviewed, hour and a half, I mean, it was phenomenal.
Absolutely, I agree.
And sadly, those stories will go with them.
Agreed.
And I just hope that we keep them. It was all something that grew out of StoryCorps and NPR.
That's exactly what we modeled it from, the story
Good.
core concept, so we continue to do that.
All right.
So,
Councilmember Hamilton.
I guess the capitalist in me just has to follow what Mr. Bunker said. You know, bringing in a Super 8 movie and be able to digitally, transfer it to a digital format. There are places that, do that, that's their business and they charge for it. Now, for us to do it for free, is there not an opportunity there? And I'm not saying do it, I'm not saying gouge anybody, but isn't that an avenue that we probably could generate a little bit of revenue from if we, let people get the message out that this service is available at the library and, but charge a nominal fee, because if it takes some staff time to help to assist the user and everything else, I don't think people would be offended if you charge them a small fee. And could be not a large revenue source, but a revenue source to offset some things, some costs that the library definitely has to incur.
absolutely, and that would just be a different departure for us, because we don't charge for meeting room use or programming. So that would, if we do decide to go down that road, we would consider that, but we've kind of been priding ourselves on not charging our customers for any.
Moving forward, it may be something we need to give some thought to.
Well, it's one of those age-old discussions that we have on occasion where we start to get into areas that the private sector already provides, and we may be doing it for less or free. I would tell you that you can also rent tools at Home Depot, but so we are dabbling in areas that are provided, but as you said, Councilmember, for a cost. So that can be something we can discuss. That's the type of things we dive into when we actually get to the budget later this year. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Marine and Aviation, this is our halfway point. So, on the departments.
You want to take a break, or?
No, but I'm going to give you financial rewards for brevity. I've got $1 with your name on it.
Okay, Ed Chesney, Marine Aviation.
I'll match it.
I have a very unique group. I manage 3 enterprise funds, the Air Park Fund, the Downtown Marina Fund, and the Beach Marina Fund and its properties. But I also manage the Waterway Program. So I'm going to start with that a little bit, because that's the one that a lot of people don't know that we do. And what that includes is access to the water via the boat ramps, the public docks that are there for free. And we also maintain 500 plus navigational aids in the city. Those go everywhere from the swim zones along Clearwater Beach to the slow speed minimum wake zones. All of those signs the city is responsible to maintain. And we install those. Our department has a barge. We can put them in. We're required, just like street signs, they fade out, they get hit, they need to be replaced. So that's an ongoing problem. In the winter, we take our biggest hit with those because of the storms that come across, and of course hurricane season. So that's a big responsibility that we do every day. There's not a day goes by that I don't get a call that there's a buoy on Sand Key or something washed up, and we go out and replace those. With COVID-19, everything was closed, but everybody headed out to the waters. So Seminal Boat Ramp, that's another project that we manage, and it's paid for primarily through the parking fund with parking revenues. We don't pay to launch boats there. That ramp saw record usage this season, and we're managing ways to correct that for the future, because what we don't want to do is turn away people from the ramps, but we have to when they park in the neighborhoods, and there are actually more people parking in the neighborhoods that are parking in the ramps. So it's a big problem this year, and we're working on ways to correct that. Other than that, the other things we do, we manage the fishing pier, which was damaged during Irma. That has been reopened. That was one of the biggest wave attenuators downtown at the Harbor Marina that protects that marina, and we lost that during Irma. So that's been replaced, and that'll segue into the enterprise funds, and I'll start with the downtown marina. That
Marina will be 10 years old in August. And it's the end of its warranty period, so I have a program. It's starting to show its age, but we are replacing things, and some of the things we have to replace are the wave attenuators that protect the basin inside. We just replaced the largest one on the north side, and the south end needs attention too, and we have been addressing it, and we're addressing all the major components along the pile system. So that's one of my big projects this year and years into the future, is to be proactive, not reactive. It's cheaper to fix these components when they're wearing out rather than when they cause, complete loss, because then they affect the internal components of the system. So that is a big challenge for us downtown. That the marina is very successful. It's near capacity. Transient usage is at an all-time high. We just updated one of our efficiency things is the way you access the marina, the way you use our facilities, whether they're the restrooms, the gates. The keys get out to these gates, and it's the same key, and they never come back. We would charge a $10 deposit on a key, but everybody would pay $10 and keep the key and use it for the rest of their life. So we went with some smart technology now where we have an app that is downloaded on your smartphone, and you get a virtual key, and you have to have your phone with you, and it'll open the gates and access to you. And then when the people come and go, we turn their keys off. So it's in the trial mode right now downtown. It'll go to the beach by the end of this month, and so far we're getting good reviews on that. As with our smart application for docking access to our facilities, you used to call on the phone, somebody wrote a sticky note. Everything now is online. You can rent a dock, you can cancel a reservation, you can make a reservation, so it's very efficient, and again, record usage with that right now. Over at the beach marina, we're looking at our CIP. In 3 to 4 years, we're going to be rebuilding the beach marina. So I have been doing a lot of things this year in particular is to get ready for that rebuild. We have to look at our infrastructure out there, whether it be electrical, the water, the sewer, everything that goes to that has to be ready before we put out the beach marina design, because we have to build behind the seawall before we actually rebuild the marina, and the seawall is part of that rebuild. For example, when we built the downtown marina, I was the project manager for that 3 years before we broke ground. I worked on that project for 3 years to get all of these things ready for when we did put it out to bid, initial surveys, the dredge, anything that was needed. So that is all going down right now, is underway right now. And then we have the marina businesses that we manage out there. Those are the restaurants and the leases that are all part of that marina fund, and we have the aquarium, the docks behind the aquarium as well that are part of that fund. And then we have the air park. The air park is 81 years old this year. It's been around for a very long time, and back in 2001 that was converted over to an enterprise fund. It was at one time a general fund. What we are doing now over there, it's a general aviation facility, and it's under management or control by FDOT, and those are our biggest sponsors. So we have been actively seeking grant opportunities from DOT, and they're very good quality type grants. It's an 80-20 grant typically. We've replaced most of all the aging hangars out there. We've built new hangars. We're building a hangar right now this year. We've installed security upgrades this year. I have a fencing project, a camera project. We're looking at our terminal building, which is a double wide, if you will, and that is well beyond its useful life expectancy out there. We're keeping that. Hopefully in another couple of years, we've been putting monies together. We can get 50-50 grant funding from the state to help put that in place. So that said, a lot of things and irons in the fire for us. I've got a very dynamic group that I manage, a lot of things happening, but we support the citizens by land and sea, and we get a lot of support from the other departments, engineering, parking, parks and rec. So it's a great place to be, and I'm happy to be there, and I'll answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Chesney? Councilmember Beckman.
I love your presentations. I saw your presentation, I think last spring, you were talking about the beach marina and all that pre-planning. You were talking about the different ways you were charging for electricity or water by individual renters. So that was, that made a big impression. But if we're talking about that beach marina, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but it's such a tight area for walkers, for pedestrians, bikers, all that stuff around the pirate ship and all those rentals. Is there, are there plans to make that more walker-friendly?
Yes, there are. I'm calling it Marina Walk because it really is at the start of Beach Walk there. But the Marina seawall is along Coronado. It goes completely behind the marina, then all the way, it dead ends into the pedestrian bridge over Mandalay Channel there. That's where the utilities lie. So we have to rip up that whole sidewalk and put all new utilities in there and redo the seawall cap and tiebacks. At that time, I envision that becoming more of a pedestrian attractive walkway with new lighting, pavers. Width-wise, we're not going to get much more width out of it, but there's a lot of width there in different surfaces, so we can redo it there. But that is a project that I'm going to introduce at the time when we tear out that sidewalk rather than just pour concrete. Concrete is problematic for us because we have a lot of breaks in those utilities, so I want to put a utility duct bank in there that's accessible without taking up the concrete. You just take up pavers. So we'll do something like that, and then the paver system will expand to the parking lots.
But there's no way to expand that width of that walkway at all,
Not
over
with
water a touch or?
I mean, the buildings are there in the parking lots, so but it is a generous width. It's wider than Beach Walk if you were to walk that, if you actually measured it.
In front of the pirate ship?
Yeah.
She's talking about Coronado.
Yeah, Coronado sidewalk.
Mandalay,
Yeah.
I mean, because you have the street there, but I'm talking more in front of the pirate ship, but then as you wrap around, there's a much larger.
It's larger in front of the,
It's just constrained.
It is.
Right
And,
away.
I mean, we're not going to take roadway away.
No, but I didn't know if we could push it, push the pirate ship and the Screamer and all those guys out a little bit. And,
Then you're going into riparian rights.
yeah,
You're in the water at that point. You're
or
at
over the
sea.
water, yeah.
You're over the
yeah.
water.
And we can't do that?
No, not really. I mean, the basin there, for the size of those ships and to come in there, you couldn't really push them up because now you're crowding.
And you're limiting the number.
Limited the space. With the redesign, there is more submerged lands there that are underutilized. That marina was built over 50 years, really 3 times. So things have been added. There's no 2 slips the same size. It's really going to be more functional and more realistic. We're going to have certain size slips. We're going to have certain size slips for certain size vessels. Right now, you can have a bigger boat in a smaller slip, and we have smaller boats and bigger slips because people come and go, and there's no 2 slips alike out there.
And then I had a question about, under like foster community engagement, there have been a number of communications to me about people who live near the airport about an increase in flight traffic and pilots not flying the right way and different noise complaints and things like that. What are we doing to help mitigate that and improve it?
Well, if somebody's saying they're not flying the right way, that doesn't make sense to me because there's only one way to land and one way to take off. It's a flight pattern that the pilot is supposed to take. And that's all under their control. Once they leave the ground, whatever condition, maybe they turned too early or they weren't high enough. I mean, nobody can control that other than the pilot. But the flight path is a standard path that they have to take on landing. Sometimes when the wind is in a different direction, noises are different, but the flight path shouldn't. It's pilot error if he does something different. But we do engage the neighborhood. They have the open house out at the airport quite frequently. And to be honest with you, since I've been over there for 3 years, the complaints that I get are new people moving into the neighborhood. They didn't realize that they could hear the airplane traffic. They didn't see the airport when they looked at their house. There wasn't, it was a different day. Right now, and again with COVID, people are flying. People that have planes, it's a way to get around. So the airport is busy. It was an essential business, so more people were flying. We have the flight school out there that supports the flying public at large. They train over there. It's a big facility. These pilots go out and fly for the airlines and such. So I get it, and we work with the people that do complain, and the FBO I work with extensively. I personally haven't, but he has been to people's homes with the meters. He's gone to other people's homes that are closer. He's offered insulation. Some of the homes are older homes with no insulation in their roofs or these older windows, which are some things that people change over time. But I can tell you that a majority of the complaints are new people to the neighborhood. Because I look at that when I get a complaint, I said, they just moved in 6 months ago. And with people working from home during COVID-19, they hear the traffic. But during Neighborhoods Day, I specifically go to those neighborhoods around there and I ask them about the air park. And most people say, I don't even hear it anymore. It's just part of the background. It's white noise to them. Just like if you live near a train track, you get used to it. But we are very sensitive to the residents there. And I can tell you the FBO takes those complaints very seriously, invites them to the air park, shows them the flight track, the tracking. That's all there on the wall. You can walk in and they can show you exactly what the pilots are doing and where your house is, and what, elevation they might be at.
And is there some kind of dashboard that we report out on how many flights per day? Like, has that significantly increased the number of takeoffs and landings?
It's seasonal. We have 50,000 takeoffs plus a year out at the air park. So if you could just divide that on an average year, there are quite a bit. You wouldn't think so, but there are quite a bit.
There's also been complaints about more helicopter traffic.
Yeah.
So there's questions about people banking left instead of right on takeoffs. But we're meeting tomorrow, so we'll talk about that.
Tomorrow,
Thank you, Mr. Chesney.
Thank you.
No dollar. Parks and Rec.
What about?
I probably cost him $1.
Oh, I'm sorry, missed call.
That's okay, for brevity. So for brevity, I'll stay right here. Official Records and Legislative Services, we're a department of 8, and within our namesake, we are responsible for ensuring that our residents and our community stakeholders have access to those records. So I'm going to highlight some of the major things that we do coming up that are going to be a little bit different. Granicus is the program that we use to manage our agenda, and most recently people have realized that we've also have been having e-comments but now are able to utilize that. So that's something new that as changes occur and the company changes also and implements new changes to respond to the needs of local governments, we will look at those and adopt those that are beneficial to our community. One area that we're looking at right now is Gov Qa. That is our online public records management program. We've been utilizing it for over 4 years, and we're at the point of contract renewal. At the time we adopted that, it was the only the only product available. So now we're looking at different products. We're working with IT as well as my PD counterpart to see if there are more user-friendly options available that are also beneficial in terms of maybe cost-effective, but also user-friendly to our citizens to submit their public records requests and pay for any records requests online as well. We also work with all the departments in terms of creating the city's legislative priorities. That's at the state and federal level, which are then presented to council for your adoption. I use the agenda, the federal and state legislative agendas, to manage our lobbying firms, both at the state and federal level. And I think the most significant examples that I can provide is just recently with COVID. So even though Congress was nimble enough to create legislation to respond to the needs of small businesses, there were a lot of questions that staff raised during the process because the legislation wasn't clear or did not address certain areas. So I worked with our lobbyists to ensure those questions were raised and had proper responses for even our legal team to review. So that's one example, and right now we are working on our state RFP. So we will be renewing the state RFP contract, and we will work with the respondents and see where we go. But that's coming up, and then later on in the year, our federal lobbying contract also expires. In terms of quality, we always look at how to improve our services to our residents, and that is really one of the main things for us. E-comment is one that has been available, but now recently Granicus is allowing us to allow comments to be taken during the meeting. And so although it has not been a big change for us, I think it has been a change. We have had individuals utilizing it more now. And then we've had some individuals actually submit comments during the meeting, which is really nice because it gives them an option in terms of not coming to council if they feel they aren't able. We also have the dedicated email address now as an option for individuals to submit comments. And right during the COVID timeframe, we've also had to implement a call-in feature, so that's something that staff is considering during closures, allowing citizens to comment through a call-in, or if we're doing a virtual, through communications media technology. And under financial responsibility, again, we work with our departments citywide to see what items, projects, or if it's a funding, a grant, or a legislative matter that need to be addressed at either the state or the federal level. We work with them, and then again, I present that to council for your review and for your adoption. That's the work plan that I use to manage our lobbying teams. Are there any questions?
Well, first of all, on this call, you've done a marvelous job through COVID-19 along with public communications. I know it's not easy, but you all make it look seamless.
Well,
so
I
thank
had
you.
help from everybody. So again, I work with PC, with IT, my staff, and so it's definitely something that not all on my shoulders. So I appreciate everybody's help.
Questions?
I just, as I mentioned at our last council meeting, I hope that the call-in number can continue even non-emergency. I hope, I think that's a good thing, and all about encouraging civic engagement. I think it's been really good through COVID. People are paying attention. Thank you.
Parks and Rec, Mr. Cater.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Parks and Recreation, we feel that, let me get this in the right place here, okay? There we go. We feel that Parks and Recreation touches every citizen and individual in the city of Clearwater numerous times during the year, whether they know it or not. It's either through the recreation programs, the activities, visiting a recreation center, going to the beach, just driving down the road, the right-of-ways that are maintained, the trees that are trimmed and taken down when they're diseased and damaged, for the roads that, basically the potholes that we fill up and the sidewalks that we try to fix. We are way behind on a lot of those, I know, but in many ways, special events, the activities that we do, we touch, and maybe that's not a good word to use today, but we touch citizens every single day in many multiple ways. For the past several years, we have implemented the council's strategic vision and plans, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll go through just some I think that are very important. One is to facilitate the development of the economy. We do that, and you'll see that listed as a sports tourism. We created about 5 years ago a sports tourism division or section within Parks and Recreation because we saw the need to bring them in. It's a big business now, and since then we have, people think of the professional sports, the MLS soccer that we have here for spring training, the Phillies, but more than that, we bring in the ESPN softball tournaments and those types of things. And all you have to do is ask basically the businesses along US 19 whether or not sports tourism works for them, and it does. It fills them up throughout the year. The other thing that we do, of course, is the enhanced beach maintenance that we do. 365 days a year, we're out there. We have lifeguard programs as well, and that makes Clearwater a #1 beach. And it also obviously creates the economic stimulus that's out there. As far as fostering community engagement, we look at ourselves as the neighborhood coordinator before there was a neighborhood coordinator, to be quite honest with you, because recreation facilities used to be on playgrounds and those types of things. And basically we would go to the homes individually and say, Johnny acted up today. So we were out there in the communities, and even today we still are. Our homeowners associations, we have great rapport with them. They come and actually use the recreation centers to have their meetings and those types of things. As far as providing cost-effective municipal services, there are several of them. One, this year we're going to update the city's ordinance regulating parks and recreation impact fees. We're going to develop an online program for capital improvement projects. We have seen a kind of a shortage there in our communication with the public, so we're going to put that online so that they can at any time basically go in and see what we're doing with a capital improvement project. We want to complete the hiring process for some key positions in the department, primarily the Parks and Recreation Director, which will help us. We'll develop and implement a plan to open Ross Norton Recreation Center. It's the only recreation center that is opened at 2 in the afternoon. We got a whole morning. So we're going to try to do that with existing staff, resources that we have, and to redo that so that we can open it up a little bit earlier so the community can use it and enjoy that recreation center. One of the things, key areas we have is to increase and expand the effectiveness of our volunteer program. Last year or the year before that, we had 50,000 volunteer hours. We have set a goal for 70,000, but of course, COVID has put us way behind in those areas. If you look at that 70,000, that represents 35 full-time equivalent positions. Our volunteer program is wonderful. That's one of the things we want to continue to focus on. I want to jump down to quality. Basically, we want to kick off our 5-year hardwood tree maintenance program. We want to complete ongoing Parks and Recreation CIP projects, which include, I've got to go down here. There we go. They will include Seminal boat ramp, restrooms, the Crest Lake Park renovations, Barefoot Beach House restroom, Countryside Sports Complex Phase 2, Philip Jones restroom improvements, Del Oro Park Trailhead, and the Belmont Park renovations. And the last one is Ed Wright Park improvements, didn't put on there. We hope to have all those completed within the next 2 years, to be quite honest with you. It sounds like a lot, but most of those right now are already under construction. We want to develop a well-defined and enhanced maintenance program to accomplish the needs of the municipal development future. Because when you build something, you've got to maintain it. And I know that you understand that and know that, but anything that's built in the city that has green grass or trees or anything else, that falls within us. So we want to look at the maintenance costs for Imagine Clearwater or Coachman Commons and the Cleveland Street improvements that are coming up. And also a new city hall, whenever that happens. We want to complete negotiations with the Philadelphia Phillies for the capital improvements. With that, any questions?
Questions for Mr. Cater? Mr. Bunker?
Not a question, but I think he deserves $1.
Yeah, I'll take
From
it.
the hustle up to the podium.
He did hustle up.
I did.
Well, he's Parks and Rec, for
I'm
heaven's
Parks and
sakes.
Rec.
You gotta hustle.
We're the fun, quality, quality of life is Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
But also we're the first ones to be cut too, you realize that? Okay. So it's usually anyways.
Maybe cutting your $1.
Okay, we'll spend it.
Other questions or comments?
I just had a comment about the financial responsibility as far as, because there have been some issues in the past, but there are, different programs and initiatives put in place to help rectify some of those issues with accounting for monies.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, we have done that. We have taken major steps to do that. We have actually took a position and made a comptroller out of it. So we have a comptroller, which we never had before within our department. So I think we have done a very good job at getting all those items straightened out.
How many trees do we maintain in the city today?
That's a tough question. As last inventory, and it was several years ago, because we could not keep up the inventory, it was around 50,000 trees. And one of the issues that we have with trees, while we love them, we're a tree city. We've been that for almost 40 years. I remember, and I've been here a long time, we used to have set goals to plant 5,000 trees a year. Then one year was 7,500 trees a year. And unfortunately, we are now reaping the issues of planting all those trees. They were planted in right-of-ways. They were planted all over in every park we had. And now we have a program that we have to go out in the right-of-ways. We've got about 40,000 in the right-of-ways that we have to inventory. And then we have them in 5 districts. We're going to inventory them, start this year, one district at a time, identify any rotting, dead, or diseased trees. Then we will remove them that year. And then next year we'll go to the other districts. Within 5 years, we will have covered the entire city and go back again. Again, these trees, while they're beautiful, and it's problematic, there's that balance. You want to plant a lot of trees, but then you've got the other side. You've got to maintain it.
Let's call it expensive.
Yes.
They're not free
No.
to properly maintain. It's
To
not like a
properly maintain.
forest, because they're on roadways and sidewalks and.
Well, this is one of our big
parks.
issues, we have ordinances now that do not allow homeowners to put trees in rights-of-ways, because obviously that's where all the utilities are. Causes problems, buckles, sidewalks, those types of things. Very expensive.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Well, anyone who's ever had to do it, I can tell you one of the toughest things to do and maintain is a public restroom. And I see a lot of restroom improvements in different facilities here. But I got to ask a question. I was going to do it offline, but I'm going to ask it from right here. My family operated what is now today the Barefoot Beach House concession stand on the south end of the beach for 35 years. The entire 35 years we operated it, part of our lease required us to maintain and operate that bathroom, the bathrooms that are there. I'm seeing we're doing a capital improvement project for those bathrooms there. We never got a capital improvement project, and we enlarged, increased, and maintained those bathrooms for that whole 35 years. I'm wondering, why that's not part of the lease with Barefoot Beach House.
It was. And they gave a flat sum of money to begin with for those improvements. And we're just getting around to improving the men's side of the restroom, simply because it's in a flood zone, and the FEMA requirements won't let us construct more than 50% of the adjusted value of the property, and it's taken us years. And every time we do any other capital improvement, like put an awning on or redo the roof, it puts us back another year from finishing up what we intended to do in 1 year.
Okay, I'll get a little more detail on it.
Okay, I can give you all the details on that.
I'm just saying, for 35 years, we never, the city never put a dime into that facility in 35 years. And now all of a sudden, we're pumping money into it. And I just, there's money being made out of that facility, and that one of the privileges of making the money out of that facility was maintaining that facility.
Absolutely.
So that's where I'm coming from.
I understand, and the city does make good money from their being out there. We make 50% of every rental that goes out there on the beach, and that's a lot of money for no work on our part.
Well, that's what he was willing to bid, that was what he was willing to offer through the bid process.
Understood. Understood.
Any other questions for Mr. Cater? Okay, we're going to take a quick recess because we're at the 2-hour limit. So we'll be back in about 10 minutes or less if everybody's efficient.
That's what I want. And we also moved, that was over there, so I moved that over here, so I don't know if I moved something too.
Tomorrow.
Just now?
I mean, you could do it afterwards, at this point.
I'm hesitating to put my money in the market.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't, I'd wait until August. We will call the council meeting back to order. We have planning and development, Ms. Clayton.
Good morning, Gina Clayton, Planning and Development. Our department has 58 employees in 5 divisions, and our mission is to work with our citizens and business community to maintain a vibrant, competitive, and livable Clearwater with an emphasis on professional customer service, education, and safety. So we work with the community to help develop a vision for our future, and then we work in conjunction with other departments, organizations, and the private sector actually to implement that vision. And once we build it, then our folks also help to maintain it. So our work program spans across your entire strategic priorities. What I'd like to do is just highlight some of the key projects that we have on deck for this year. And probably the most important one is our update of our comprehensive plan that aligns very closely with your strategic vision. And as you know, it is mandated by the state of Florida, and it establishes our community's visions, goals, objectives, and policies related to several areas, not several, a lot. Land use, transportation, parks and recreation, conservation, coastal management, utilities, and also intergovernmental coordination. The plan will ultimately address a lot of the things that you have in your strategic vision, especially those areas of housing, economic development, neighborhoods, resiliency, and cost-effective services and infrastructure. To support your objective of building a business-friendly environment, we're going to be engaging in a process improvement study to evaluate our current development review, permitting, and inspections program. What that study will do is analyze our current practices and procedures, and then highlight the things that we're doing well, and then also identify those things that we could do better, and hopefully they'll give us a roadmap for actually making those changes. Our department fosters community engagements through our neighborhood program and our long-range planning program. Specific examples include Neighborhoods Day and our most recent placemaking initiatives. Code compliance and construction services also work to prevent blight and support our property values through our complaint-driven and our proactive enforcement activities. We also do code enforcement sweep that gives us a more targeted and concentrated efforts in neighborhoods that can use a little help. We had planned to do 4 of those this year, but COVID has put us a little behind in that. I'm not sure we're going to be able to achieve that. With regard to efficiencies, I think you can see in this list, we're really focused on that this year. A couple of projects I would like to highlight is the deployment of our electronic document review solution known as ePermit Hub that we launched at the beginning of the year with IT support. This has enabled our staff to more efficiently and effectively review plans, and it has also given our customers some improvements. As of June 1st, I think this is a big one, we stopped accepting paper walkthrough permits from contractors. That has forced the contractors to do this work from home, which is good for them and hopefully will save them money, but it also will help us meet sustainability efforts to reduce the use of paper and also reduce vehicle trips to our office. Another efficiency that I wanted to highlight is the creation of a civil citation process or a code enforcement work. This will put in place a less time-consuming and more cost-effective process than using the county local ordinance violation court, and hopefully we'll have that up and running by the latter part of the year. As you can see in this list, we work with a lot of departments in a lot of different ways, and I'm not going to go over those, but the last thing I wanted to highlight is that we do actually have a safety role. Complete Streets is a safety initiative that we've implemented over the past couple of years. And then we also have a central role in the damage assessment responsibilities related to hurricane. And then something we do every day through our building permitting process is to ensure that buildings are built in a safe manner. And with that, I'll stop and respond to any questions.
Questions for Ms. Clayton? Councilmember Beckman?
You mentioned that you're going to do a review of current practices and procedures and highlight the things that you could do better and stuff. Do we currently have like another exit survey of businesses or residents who have gone through different processes and you've gotten feedback from them?
We do not. It's something that we've been talking about, and one of the things that we will incorporate in this project is probably focus groups and survey work with, customers and stakeholders.
And then can you just give me just a brief idea, I guess, of implement civil citation process? What would that look like? What does that mean?
Right now, we're allowed to write tickets for certain code violations that go to county court. We're working with legal. We'll be hiring a special magistrate to serve the function of a judge. And then we'll do it here in the library so that our staff and our legal team don't have to go down to the 49th Street Center, and we don't realize any of the monies that we get, collect through fines, and that money will be able to come back from us, and it'll save us time and money.
Would that be a full-time employee or just like as?
No, it's just, instead of going to court or to the NCEB for cases, we'll go to the civil process. And it'll give us a third way, actually, to deal with code enforcement issues.
Thank you.
Gina, with the electronic submission, are there any contractors that are less sophisticated that don't have the resources to do that? Or if a homeowner is acting as the GC, has that ever been an issue?
Well, homeowners cannot file online permits. It's something that our system doesn't recognize. You have to have a contractor's license in order to do that. So we do work with citizens, on their paper application. At times we may even help upload the system. Clearly there are contractors who are less sophisticated than others, and we help them, go through the process to upload it and try to teach them. We see this a lot in maybe some of the roofing contractors. I mean, their job is to get out there and build roofs, not necessarily be tech-savvy firms. So it's a learning process for all. I think that COVID has pushed all building departments throughout the country to better utilize their online permitting system, and we're certainly doing that as well.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Gina. Chief Slaughter. I like how you were on deck.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dan Slaughter, Chief of Police. In support of the City Council's strategic direction, the Police Department seeks to support development of the economy by creating a safe city that fosters a welcoming feel. The department supports the development of downtown, the CRA, and the US 19 corridor by utilizing the nuisance abatement process to address chronic properties that have a pattern of criminal conduct and trying to address those properties so they do not hinder investment and development. The department seeks to foster community engagement by district commanders and the police liaisons attending neighborhood meetings and partnering with civic groups and other nonprofits for the betterment of the community. The department collaborates with the code enforcement and other city departments to address blighted properties and coordinates and participates in neighborhood cleanup events. We support community events by providing financial support, planning assistance, and personnel. And police staff attend community events as an outreach opportunity to build our relationship with the community. In support of optimizing use of the employees' assets and resources, the department is working to develop a streamlined process to address derelict vessels. Developing a strategy to police a renovated downtown Coachman Park, increasing the traffic enforcement team by 2 officers by using existing personnel, creating a 4-hour training class for sworn personnel to improve the efficiency and outcomes of our preliminary investigations and follow-up investigations. Our special enforcement unit has been repurposed to address pattern chronic offenders and nuisance property addresses, furthering a precision policing approach. The department has expanded its capacity to manage digital evidence and forensics. The department is preparing for the implementation of the new state and federal incident-based reporting system. We're also implementing and staffing with existing resources a real-time crime center to improve resource development and prevent crime and improve our response to crime, as well as reduce the time needed to successfully close a criminal investigation. The department collaborates with other city departments such as the neighborhood coordinator on community initiatives. We support active assailant response training for major city office buildings and participate on multiple implementation teams formed to implement projects like the current transition to the municipal payroll or the previously mentioned homeless committee and the Lake Bellevue Task Force. The department accesses public-private organizations and resources such as nonprofits and community groups to support crime prevention initiatives. The department works with other law enforcement partners through a variety of task forces to address crime problems such as the Drug Enforcement Administration, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the Habitual Offender Monitoring Enforcement Program, and the Violent Crime Task Force. The department is currently working with local partners to establish a roadmap to provide a single regional CAD and RMS platform that will improve local resource management, improve public safety, and streamline the process from the initial 911 call to the officer arrival. As a reflection of the department's commitment to quality and maintaining our infrastructure, the department has scheduled the replacement of the police vessel, planned for the replacement of the District 3 Operations and Training Facility, or Countryside Substation as is often referred to. We've already completed a transition to the new TASER 7 device, and we are currently evaluating the refurbishment or replacement of the mobile command center. The department continually measures and seeks to improve our performance by monthly evaluating data for burglary, robbery, auto theft, sexual batteries, traffic enforcement, and field interview reports. The department is creating a command and control curriculum for all frontline supervisors, and we've established a system to disseminate closed internal affair cases to make sure we all learn from each other's mistakes. The department is currently completing a review of the department's policies and procedures, and we have implemented a quality assurance program in the communications center modeled after the utility customer service department's program. The department, by its very nature, is committed to safety and reinforcing the standing as a safe community. The department has created a network of information sharing to keep neighborhoods and stakeholders informed of criminal activity trends, patterns, or city events. The department continues neighborhood policing and seeks to strengthen the community partnerships in all neighborhoods like the Lake Bellevue community. The department continues to support Operation Graduate, which is a vocational training program and a mentorship program in the North Greenwood community, a partnership with United Way. And we continue to lead in the partnership with the Upper Pinellas Ministerial Alliance for a Refuse to Lose program, which is a program to address recidivism by chronic juvenile offenders at their root causes. We continue our Walk and Talk program to promote police presence in areas of the greatest need in a non-enforcement role. In the future, I'll seek to implement and identify additional community engagement mechanisms to further build trust in the minority community. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. I talk fast to get to 3 to 5 minutes. Hey,
Nice job. Any questions for the chief? Councilmember Beckman.
When I go to the CNC meetings and different neighborhood meetings, it's always nice to have one of your police officers there to give a report. Do they go to those different meetings based on an invite from the group, or does your department reach out to different groups and ask if they can attend?
I don't know if we've ever not been asked or not been welcome. There are many core neighborhood groups that we've always been engaged with and we stay engaged with. Some of them we attend monthly, some of them we kind of attend once a year, and some we attend quarterly. Each of the neighborhoods has kind of a little different need. Of course, the CNC, because of the coalition nature of it, is one that's highly valuable, and we go to every one. We try to attend the Skycrest and the Morningside and Lake Bellevue and some of the other ones and the beach ones.
But you're at Island Estates and Sand Key. They're at almost every single neighborhood meeting.
It's some of the ones like, up near Edgewater, we may attend that one like once a year, and some of the countryside ones really only want like once a quarter or something, but I try to attend some of them, on a regular basis as well.
Okay. And then I had I don't know anything at all about tasers, but you're transitioning to a TASER 7 device. Is it better or safer? Or?
Yeah, it actually happened right before the transition of the council. So this new device is similar to the old one. However, it is a safer instrument. And if you're familiar with the TASER, it's basically an electronic disruption device. It's a valuable de-escalation tool that provides a better alternative than a firearm. It has kind of even a nature of using the spark testing as kind of a calming mechanism, or try to make people aware that something's going to happen. We have to warn people before we use it. The advantage of the newest device is it has the ability to handle 2 cartridges. So the previous device had 1 cartridge. If you shot it and it missed, you kind of were stuck. This one has the ability to fire 2 different cartridges, and if you hit, it has 2 darts, each cartridge. So if you hit a person with 1 dart and miss, and then 1 dart and miss on the 2, it'll still work. That's this cross conductivity, they call it. It's a very valuable tool. It sounds scary, but the nice thing about it, other than like things like pepper spray, like if you spray someone with pepper spray, they're uncomfortable for a good hour. This one, the moment you turn the device off, the pain stops, and it's pretty valuable.
And then I had a question about investigate sound mitigation strategies at firearm ranges in the region. Do we have firearm ranges in our region, and what is that?
Yeah, I shouldn't say ranges in the region. What it is, we have, well, I think I know what it's referring to now. I see the wording. We have a training facility in District 3 Countryside, and it has a firearm range, an outdoor fire range. We've done some renovations, and the method of the renovations were they improved the containment of the projectiles, but it created a noise issue that we're dealing with now.
For residents?
Right. So we were investigating other organizations that had ranges in the area, the Sheriff's Department, Tampa, Hillsborough, and we've actually done that already, and we're looking to not only improve some of the sound mitigating material in the range itself, but then the District 3 project that Tarek spoke about. When we do that construction, we're hoping to incorporate some mitigation into that project as well.
Councilmember Bunker.
Can I ask how often tasers are used by the department?
Yeah, I could get that number for you. I don't have to off the top of my head. Less than 3% of our arrests or so even require any force at all. So it would be relatively, I'd probably 40.
40 a year?
40, 50 a year, something like that. Big guess. It's on our website.
All right. Anything else for the chief? Thank you, Chief. Public communications. Public utilities is on deck. General services in the hole. All in honor of baseball.
Hello, Joelle Costelli, Public Communications Director. For the most part, you all are aware of the types of things we do in public communications. Our role is to help the departments get the information out to the public, whether it's via social media, the website, media relations, press releases, our printed pieces, phone calls that we use our auto dialer system. But we try to get the word out in as many ways as possible. So we're always looking at new technologies that are out there and working with the clerk's office on e-comments, the dedicated email, and the telephone call-in number that we've already discussed. Then the big projects that we have that we're communicating are dependent upon the projects that the departments are working on and that are the city administration's goals. And then we work with all of the departments in a teamwork effort to get the information out, make changes to the website, anything that it is that they want to change technology on. We have to help the residents, the businesses, and the visitors work through that. So I've been asked to keep to 3 minutes, and I'm probably kept to 1:30. If you have any questions, you guys probably get our daily emails on what we're working on, and it changes on a daily basis. You know, what I'm working on later today, I have no idea at the beginning of the morning. So with that, I'll open it to questions.
Questions for Ms. Costelli?
I do have one.
Councilmember Beckman.
I love what you do and how you communicate in a variety of ways. When you have communications and engagement for large-scale city projects, I'm just hoping that we can add communicating our strategic plan in green print to residents, so that that's something that everybody will know what it is and what it means and how it directs everything we do. And I just hope it's front and center and becomes part of everybody's vocabulary in the city who engage and say, oh, well, how does that refer to this or that? Because that's what guides us. It's what guides us all along. So looking forward to that.
Very good. Anything else? All right. Thank you, Joelle. Public utilities. Mr. Porter.
Good morning, all. David Porter, Public Utilities. I'm going to try to do what she tried to do and see if I can get done in a reasonable amount of time.
Don't skip anything.
I'm
just kidding.
Public Utilities provides core services that are essential to everything we do in our community. We are integral to the health and safety and the growth of our community and all of our residents. We're one of the more core services that people hardly ever think about. First thing in the morning, all of our citizens come in contact with public utilities. First thing you do is you get up, brush your teeth or whatever. That's public utilities. And usually the last thing you do at night, get a drink of water or whatever, that's public utilities. But very, very infrequently does anybody think about us because we're there.
Unless it doesn't work.
Unless it
Then
doesn't
they think of you all the time.
Thank goodness it always works.
That's right.
And that's our goal, to make sure we always work. You have all the information that I provided here today. I'm going to just give you 3 points that I think are give an overview of all of the things that we're talking about here. Number one, we're always striving to maximize the effective operation and use of all of our infrastructure. So as you'll see here, most of those tasks and projects that we've identified in our project list have to do with that. We are always planning to meet future regulatory challenges and the needs of our citizens in our city. Again, a number of those projects directly address that. We've had a discussion about this previously. The regulatory climate that we work in is very strict, and it changes very frequently. And we're going through a period of great change in the regulatory climate that we deal with in public utilities, which is requiring us to change a lot of what we have done and what we're going to do in the future. And lastly, we're always striving to optimize our cost effectiveness and to control costs so that we can try to put a lid on rate increases to the maximum extent we can. So to do that, we have to make all of our plans based on the strategic vision that you all have given us. And if you look through the list, some of the highlights that we've shown you is dealing with the master planning of everything that we do. It's been about 10 to 15 years since we've had full-scale, brand-new master plans. We've been updating the ones we've had, but it's time. There's been a lot of change in the regulatory climate. The age of our system has changed. There's a lot going on in public utilities that requires us to relook at the master planning for everything. And you'll see in here a number of master plans. Everything from a water supply master plan to a wastewater treatment master plan to a collection system to even the electronics and infrastructure that Dan was talking about, the SCADA system and the asset management system. So we're in a period right now where most of our projects, or a lot of our larger projects, have to do with master planning. When those are completed, those are going to help us really become even more cost effective and more proactive than we are able to be right now, because we'll have a good feel on where we truly are in regards to not only the age of our infrastructure, the condition of our infrastructure, but the regulatory changes that are happening that we have to comply with. So we're working on master planning. One of the main things that we're doing is also trying to make sure that we're maintaining and utilizing the existing infrastructure we got. These master plans are going to be something that we're going to work with going out into the future for the next 10 to 15 years. But in the meantime, we have to make sure that all of our infrastructure that we have stays operational and is operated at its maximum efficiency and cost effectiveness too. So we've been working with finance and purchasing and engineering to come up with a means of being able to do that faster, quicker, better, and more effectively. Some of the things that we've talked about in here are utilizing large projects with outside engineering assistance to help us get through projects much quicker than we have before in the areas of repair and replacement. So that's something that is new to us, and so far it's been working very well. It's allowing us to do many more projects than we have in the past, which are really critical that we get them done. We will be doing a a rate case review, I believe, next year. So we're at the end of the 5-year cycle, as Jay talked about. So we'll be coming up with this information that will help us make sure the rates are going to be sufficient and are equitable to get this kind of work done. So with that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions for Mr. Porter? Some of the Memorial Causeway work and the things going through Coachman Park, those are obviously going to be done in conjunction with Imagine.
That's correct.
Those are off the books for Imagine though, right? They're staying in your department. They're not included in the overall number? Or
I believe I'll be honest, I don't know the answer to that. I believe they may be.
I think some of those are in the numbers that you're looking at, and we're looking at the ability of the enterprise, some of those departments to take on some of those costs. So that's something we're going to be working through with you.
Well, if that's infrastructure that needs to be replaced anyway, and we're opening up the ground, obviously, in all of Coachman Park, I would think that that should not be included in the overall price of Imagine Clearwater. I'd like to talk about that further.
Well, we're planning on having that conversation.
Okay. Because I think that's a little bit of a red herring. Other questions? Comments? Councilmember Becker.
And this is a comment, not to be super repetitive, but with all of your maintenance and the master plan, you and I have had a couple of conversations, but I just think you guys are always busy maintaining, improving, replacing, that reporting out those savings is important. When we talked about the sensors in the dye testing and things like that. Like if that saves us money with labor, it's nice to recognize that and let people know we're saving them money.
We'll be coming to you, usually every year, we come back to you with department reported savings that we report to the council.
Great.
And we'll certainly be doing that like we always do.
Residents need that. We need.
Right, and it's done here in council on TV. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter.
Very welcome.
Mr. Gloucester, General Services and Solid Waste.
Good morning, Mayor, Council, Earl Gloucester, Director, Solid Waste and General Services. So we are two departments. We have an internal service fund and an enterprise fund. Solid Waste and Recycling are the enterprise funds, and General Services, which is comprised of fleet maintenance, building maintenance, and radio communications. So overall, we're roughly 204 full-time employees. The internal service fund, we'll start with General Services. Through building maintenance, we're continuing our efforts to improve and enhance our infrastructure through the updated LED lighting upgrades that we're doing throughout the city. We're roughly 10% through the city. That's inside buildings as well as outside lighting that we're responsible, light posts that we're responsible for. So that process continues. And we look at sustainable features anytime we do any upgrades. We have to replace a chiller or lighting or HVAC system, anything like that inside a building. We're looking at the most sustainable features that we can afford to put in there. Upgrading fleet diagnostic tools, using iPads for our fleet mechanics will be using iPads to be able to more accurately and quickly diagnose what's wrong with a vehicle or a piece of equipment. Also, we're looking at doing some upgrades to our fleet, adding electric hybrids. They're coming on board this year. We're working with Clearwater PD to bring on some hybrid vehicles for the first time, and we'll see how that works out for us. We're excited about it, and we're going to see how that works out for us. Going over to solid waste, we're looking at, we've brought on, the new transfer station. It's working out great for us. We're thrilled to have that facility online. That having a transfer station, in case you didn't know, saves us roughly $2.5 million a year. It's efficient for the route trucks to be able to go there, dump, and get back to the route, and then have 7 or 8 tractor trailers transport the trash down to Pinellas County. So that $2.5 million is real money that's tangible that we can look at, but the intangible is not having 40 trucks making that trip down there and back. So there's real savings there, and we're grateful that we were able to do that project and have it online.
But you're saving not only money and time, but you're not putting as many miles on those vehicles.
Exactly. The miles on the vehicles and the intent, the X factor that I call it is the liability. What happens and can happen with that trip. How many accidents that we're not having because we have 7 vehicles versus 40 or 45 vehicles. We're having construction begin here within the next week or two, hopefully, on the beach with our underground refuse project. We're really excited about that. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be efficient, and we're looking forward to that. We also got permission from the Phillies to install it out at the stadium. So you'll see that next year before spring training, we'll have it installed out at the Phillies stadium. So we're excited about that. Our material recovery facility, our MRF, we're looking at the facility, the feasibility of installing some sorting equipment there so that we take our third-party vendor out of the mix and we're sorting our own recyclables and going directly to market. That would be a huge savings to us and actually get us, I believe, get us out of the red with recycling and make us more sustainable with that program going forward. You have a question, sir?
No.
Okay, all right. And that's it.
Questions for Mr. Gloucester? How long ago did we talk about that sorting, though? It's been at least 8 years.
At least 8 years, yes, sir.
So that's why I was smiling. All right, thank you, Mr. Gloucester. Utility customer service, Ms. Boyd?
Hello.
Good afternoon, well, almost.
Cynthia Boyd, Utility Customer Service Director. It's nice to finally meet you and meet our newest council members. You don't see me often, but you will see me probably in a couple months because I have a contract coming up that I need approval for. And then you may not see me for another 3 years. Let's see. So Utility Customer Service, UCS for short, fulfills the core functions of billing and collections for the City of Clearwater Utility Enterprise Funds. The department consists of a call center, meter reading, billing and collections, cashiering, and administrative division. And in working to further the city's strategic direction, UCS spotlights quality by proactively maintaining and reinvesting in our infrastructure, such as the need to replace our phone system and upgrading our billing and meter reading software to a more current version. This will allow UCS to be efficient by automating several of our processes that will help make better use of our employees' time. We also spotlight financial responsibility by achieving a successful collection call rate of 70% or greater and an uncollectible debt, bad debt rate of 0.25% or less as a percent of revenue billed. And those are the two that we mainly focus on. Any questions?
Any
Usually
questions
short and sweet.
for Ms. Boyd? Thank you for the great job you're doing.
Thank you.
Now, something conspicuously missing is legal.
There you go.
How'd you pull that one off, Miss Aiken?
I know. I don't know.
Okay. You're free, right?
Excuse me?
You're free? Your department's free?
Apparently.
Okay. Mr. Maxwell?
Manager's office too. We don't have one on that either.
Yeah, I know. I was going there next.
I do have one, hearing some of the comments, I do have one initiative that I want to make sure that you're all aware of that comes out of the city manager's office, but involves all of the departments. And that's our review right now of our decision-making process and integrating, social impacts, environmental impacts, and financial impacts in a tangible way, so that we can provide that information to you all when you need to make your decision. And we can provide it to the residents when they want to know what's most important. We can show them not only the financial and the environmental, but what the social piece is. That social piece is very difficult to make tangible, but there are some methods that we're looking at, and we expect it will be a big part of the strategic planning process that we have. Some of that will come out of that. So just want to make sure you are aware of it. And with that, I'm going to call up Kayleen Castle, our budget manager, and she's going to talk a little bit about the budget.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Kayleen Castle, Budget Officer. As we've already been discussing, quantifying the impacts of COVID is very difficult. We anticipate large reductions in both sales tax revenue and revenue sharing, state revenue sharing, both of which are received from the state at a 2.5-month delay. So with that, we've not received April revenues, and April was the month that was most strongly impacted. Other major revenues impacted include beach sales and rental revenues and parks and recreation rentals, admissions, and activity fees. In April, we worked to create a forecast of general fund revenues for the rest of the current fiscal year, And in what we hope is the worst-case scenario, our projected loss could be up to $9.4 million in budgeted revenues for the current fiscal year. Originally, we also anticipated to see some declines in both utility taxes and franchise fees, but so far these revenues have remained steady. We're also anticipating some reductions to operating expenditures, all of which will help reduce that $9.4 million deficit. Although some restrictions are being lifted and we should have a positive economic impact, there's likely residual impacts that are still completely unknown. In September, I'll present the third quarter budget review, and at that time we'll have most revenues received for the year, and we'll have a clearer picture of what this final deficit will be on the current budget. The planning process to create the fiscal year 21 budget began early this year, just as the COVID crisis began. So we've had to plan in a very different way than prior years as we are dealing with so many unknown factors. We've taken a very conservative approach to budgeting for fiscal year 21. We are anticipating that there will be negative impacts on these same revenue sources going into next fiscal year. To balance that loss in revenues, we're budgeting expenditures at the same service levels we currently provide and imposing a 2% salary savings across all departments. Directors have been challenged to look at their operations and to find efficiencies that could result in operating savings going forward. Since we really don't know the full impact currently and likely won't have enough data in September and for final adoption of fiscal year 21, we'll be carefully monitoring both revenues and expenditures next year and amending as necessary. Attached to the agenda item today are 10-year financial forecasts which Jay has completed for the general fund as well as all the major utility funds, and he's going to go over those with you now. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions? Don't go far. Councilmember Beckman.
Do we have like an unspoken hiring freeze or anything now except for necessary positions?
We are calling it a soft hiring freeze, so every vacancy is being vetted through the city manager's office before being opened. Thank you.
Just a moment to get something pulled up. Jay Ravens, Finance Director. I'd like to briefly review a 10-year forecast for the general fund, as well as 5-year forecasts for the major utility funds. This general fund forecast incorporates the COVID-19 budgetary impacts that Kayleen has described, both for the current fiscal year 2020, fiscal year 2021, and beyond. I've provided two versions of the general fund forecast as backup for this agenda item. One that simply projects future revenues and expenditures with no millage increase, which reflects that we're projected to dip below required minimum reserves in fiscal 2025. And a second version that includes a millage increase necessary to maintain minimum required reserve levels over the forecast period. I'm displaying the version incorporating the millage increase. I'm happy to review as much of the detail of this forecast as you would like, but from a big picture perspective, the forecast brought forward to Council at last year's strategic planning meeting indicated the need for a 0.54 millage increase in fiscal 2027. The impact of COVID-19 on current year and projected revenues has caused a significant decline in projected general fund reserve levels, and we currently project the need for a 0.96 mil increase in fiscal 2025. The good news is that a millage increase is not needed immediately, and we have the ability to reduce or eliminate the projected millage increase between now and fiscal 2025. I do need to qualify that this forecast will change, and it could change significantly in the coming weeks and months as we get better information for the forecast. Kayleen has already shared with you that we have already had some good news in April and May per some of the revenue categories. However, we still do not have sales tax information from the state for sales made in April and May, which is significant to the forecast. Additionally, it's very difficult to determine the impact on next year's revenues and beyond, including the impact on commercial property values and resulting property taxes. We have tried to be conservative in guesstimating the impact of this unprecedented economic shutdown on city revenues, with the hope that future revisions are good news rather than bad news. But I think it's safe to say that our current forecast will change significantly in future weeks, hopefully in the right direction. But this is our best attempt at a conservative forecast for this deadline.
Vice Mayor.
So this doesn't account for any kind of federal help that we're hoping to get.
Correct.
We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
That is correct. For instance, the small business grants, the $3.5 million, if we were able to get federal money in reimbursement of that, you'd see that diminish or go away.
I mean, I'm a little bit disappointed in the way that the original CARE Act was structured, that, cities had to be over 500,000 people.
Yeah.
And that, in, I believe, Florida, 12 counties received the money in lieu of, and that Pinellas County got $170 million, and we're not seeing any of that. Now, some of it obviously went to businesses, and I applaud them for doing that program, but I'm not, and there's some for Health and Human Services. Obviously, they are the provider of a lot of the health care, especially for those who don't have it. But it does not explain the balance of the rest of the money. And I know I've talked to both of our congressmen about that, and there is the belief that something will eventually come to cities. We'll see if that actually occurs. I think that if that occurs, we'll be happy, but I don't think we should plan on it. So we'll see with that. What I'd like to know, Mr. Horn, is what are you hoping to receive from the council today from this information? Is this for information purposes only, or are you also looking for some policy direction?
Primarily information only.
Okay.
You all, in your questions, have communicated to us some of your thinking. Since we're at the end of this, if you have some other things you want to share, we will gladly, receive that. We're really anticipating what happens when we come back to you for the follow-up to this meeting, because that's when the real hard work will have to be done, with you telling us, what kind of reprioritization you'd like to see in the way we approach the budget. And from my perspective, this has been very helpful, what you have done and your comments, and any additional things.
Can we talk a little bit about the methodology that you used for estimating going forward? Forecasting, by its mere nature, is a lot of art with science. And, so somebody had asked in one of the emails that we received, how could we not anticipate that revenues were going to go down this year? And in fact, we have estimated that revenues are going to go down. You had mentioned that sales tax, I would assume, is probably going to be where we get our greatest hit.
Most percentage-wise, yes, definitely the most significant.
And certainly in May, there was, April and May, there was more impairment. March, we really had about 2 weeks at most.
Which resulted in about a 25% decrease, which
Right.
was what we forecast, and that was where actual came in. We had forecast an 80% decrease for April and May, and 70% for June through September.
But the franchise fees and utility fee taxes have been significantly better.
Yes.
I know that I've talked to Mr. Twitty twice, who is our property appraiser, because I wanted to kind of get ahead of this and get a better idea. He is also, doing estimates, obviously. But for this year on our ad valorem, the tax basis is determined on Jan 1.
For fiscal 2021, so that's already in the bank, other than collections, what the collection level will be.
Sure. Now, hotels probably would be some of the properties that may go back and ask for a different calculation based upon an income method. But the rest of it is pretty much set in stone. I think the bigger hit could potentially be next year if things get reappraised. But I'm not seeing from talking to professionals that residential values are going down very significantly.
Well, and you'll notice we've used 0% in the forecast. We didn't put in a negative percentage reflecting a decrease in values. We're hopeful that the residential appreciation will offset the commercial valuations or the decrease in commercial valuations, but that's nothing but a wild guesstimate at this point in time. Hopefully the property tax appraiser will be able to give us better information to
But
refine
these are
that projection.
very conservative estimates. Would you characterize them that
Yes,
way?
the property tax, not necessarily, but you'll notice we've carried out smaller incremental increases in the out years to also be more conservative with our property tax valuations. So overall, yeah, right now we feel that these are conservative, but again, there's so much uncertainty that there's uncertainty in saying that also.
And how are you calculating in new construction? We've got several hotels that are coming out of the ground, for instance, out on Clearwater Beach. The JW, I believe, still will come out of the ground. The Opal Sands.
We're not drilling down to that level of detail with these.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Other questions?
I got a
Councilmember
question.
Beckman?
Yeah, thank you. About a possible millage of .96. Would there be a way to do like 3 years of .33 or something like that instead
Sure,
of?
we could do what ifs on that. You mean have an initial millage increase earlier?
Yes.
Or even that year have a smaller millage increase, but then additional millage increases. Yes. Yeah, this is carrying us out all the way through the 10-year period. There are other options. We could do different scenarios of that for sure.
Like all eggs in one basket?
Yeah, absolutely.
Other questions or comments? Well, I thought you were trying to find something.
I'm waiting for him to go to the utility
I hear
fund
him
on that.
clicking over there. I thought you were finding something
I'm
you
waiting
might
for him
ask
to go
a
to the
question
utility
on.
fund.
If there are no other questions, I would like to briefly touch on the utility fund five-year forecast. And that's simply to say that all of the forecasts for the major utility funds reflect that they are maintaining healthy reserve levels in excess of required minimums. They're all doing rate studies to maintain and manage their forecasts going forward. So they're all healthy and in good shape.
Is there any refis that we might be doing during this very low interest rate environment? I know that you're constantly looking for opportunities.
We completed one right before this started. There are no other ones on the horizon currently. We're limited in what we can do now with the new federal laws.
Okay. Yes.
I have a question about those reserves that are millions and millions of dollars.
Yes,
over.
on the utility funds?
Yeah, yeah, and they're significantly high in, water, sewer, stormwater, and then it kind of decreases. The gas is not nearly as high in that reserves in excess of policy minimum.
That is misleading in the fact, to where you're going, to thinking they have more money than what they should have. For instance, the water sewer fund, you'll see, I think, probably excess of 25 million.
Well, 57.
Oh, 57, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They have over $100 million of cash dedicated to capital projects. They're putting money aside for capital projects in advance.
Okay.
That's technically unrestricted, because if we needed it for an emergency, the project just wouldn't happen. But that is money that's being planned, and that's why they have that level of reserves.
It's sequencing.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments? Going to open it up for the public to make comments. 3 minutes. We ask that you come forward, state your name and address. If you've filled out a card.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Bill Johnson. I did submit a card. My address is on there.
Thank you.
Today, I'm just speaking for myself. Thank you for going through this and looking at things so carefully. I would like to speak to the need to emphasize quality municipal services as they touch the citizens. One of your last meetings, Mr. Mayor brought in some pictures of the beach and the litter that was accumulating out there, and going back to 15 years ago, it wasn't as a pleasant place because of the litter and the character of the beach. And now with COVID-19, it's more important that we look like a clean place. So I would want you to take that into considerations. And also, you need to apply that logic to the rest of the city. And for instance, we are seeing some problems in the North Greenwood area. Is this on? Or?
It's not up. She's working on it.
In that, we're seeing more illegal dumping occurring up in that area. I need to zoom out. A little farther. That's one example. These are all on Tangerine. These were last week, and I drove through there this morning. There's tires in this area. And then the last picture is on the Habitat property. Also, sidewalk maintenance issues are significant in that there are trip hazards that are taller than the height of a credit card. This is where the one sidewalk is, and this is where the other one. These are just a few pictures in our neighborhood, and this one shows that it was been marked for a really long time. This whole section was marked to be removed. So it's important that we proceed with municipal excellent services, especially as they touch the citizens. Thank you for considering that as you move forward with your budget discussion.
Thank you. I have never understood why people in Clearwater dump trash anywhere other than at the side of their property, because we pick up everything. You can basically dismantle your house and leave it at the curb and we'll take it away. If you go to Arizona, you'll see things in the desert that are just dumped, and one of the reasons is the municipalities don't pick up everything, and so there's incentive for people to dump. But that does not exist in the city of Clearwater. I think Mr. Cater did talk about sidewalks and the fact that that's been somewhat delayed because of COVID, and that he has identified the fact that they're a little behind, but that's something that hopefully we're going to catch back up on. It's one of the beauties of trees, but that's also one of the results of having big live oaks and other things. They do raise the sidewalks. Councilmember Hamilton.
I agree with what you said, but I think, and Mr. Gloucester can correct me if I'm wrong or whatever, but I believe a lot of the debris that Mr. Johnson just provided pictures of, in that case, a lot of that people are bringing it in from outside. They're not residents of Clearwater. They're bringing it in because where they live, they can't get it picked up. They bring it in and dump it on Clearwater property, so it will get picked up. And either because they can't get it picked up at their place, or they don't want to pay the dumping fee to take it to the dump themselves. So it's not really it's not the Clearwater residents that are, in most cases, that are dumping that. It's people from outside our control.
Well, and there's,
And that's,
too, there's, I saw pictures of tires in there. I mean, you can't put that out on the curb. That has to be a recycle, you know, that's a special pickup, but, we do take in almost everything, but if you had electronics or you have things that you can't just put out on the curb, like old gas cans and things, you can take them in on certain times and to the recycling, and the city does take them.
Any other questions for staff? Mr. Horn, anything else?
Yes, can I make some summary comments?
You certainly can.
do you have more? I think.
Do you want me just to report, given the time frame?
No, go ahead. We had 4 email comments.
Yes. Comment was submitted by Amy Gresh. The Pinellas County Strategic Plan says that they will practice superior environmental stewardship. However, Clearwater's vision does not include anything directly related to improving our environment, providing more sustainable services, or maintaining, improving, expanding green and natural spaces. Green print is also missing from the vision documents. These omissions are unacceptable. We need environmental priorities to be spelled out and highlighted, not omitted. A comment was submitted by Elizabeth Davis. I am surprised there is no consideration of COVID deficit in 2021 as revenue will not come back quickly. I would also like to hear your plans about the execution accountability of green print plan on our strategy. Quarterly, all building expecting a greener footprint, asking for solar investments every time, keep our park space and Clearwater standards all over the city. Russ Gable, hi, the city's vision needs to incorporate improving our environment, providing more sustainable services, maintaining, improving, expanding green natural spaces. In addition, we need our sustainability coordinator need to have a larger role. The mayor's green initiative needs to have a bigger role. Why does city continue to struggle with this issue? The environment is the most important topic. Glenna Wentworth, thank you for the opportunity to comment on our vision, mission, and strategic direction for Clearwater in the coming years. I believe this document at present provides excellent goals for economic development, municipal services, but leaves out sustainability and resiliency. One thing that the last election taught us is that people in Clearwater are concerned about clean water, clean air, and a healthy habitat for the animal and plant life that attracted many of us to Florida in the first place. Please consider adding a third pillar to our strategic directions, similar to the third pillar of Pinellas County's strategic plan, practice environmental stewardship. 4 points under that pillar could include implementing green technologies and practices, preserving and managing environmental lands, protecting and improving the quality of our water, air, other natural resources, and reduce, reuse, recycle resources, including energy, water, and solid waste. Each of these points are in our Green Print Sustainability Plan and should be reflected in our strategic goals. Fulfilling these goals will ensure a high quality of life for our present and future residents. And one email was received by Stacy Loam. Good afternoon. I reviewed the strategic plan to be discussed on June 11. There is absolutely nothing in the city's strategic plan to protect and preserve our environment. Is this an oversight? I can't imagine that the city council would purposely neglect to include items to protect our environment, including water and habitat. I attended candidate forums where each candidate was asked what their priorities are regarding the environment. Kathleen Beckman provided a very detailed, well-thought-out plan. This plan or pieces of it can easily be adopted by the City Council. In addition, littering continues to be an ongoing problem in Clearwater. Besides the fact that it looks terrible, it is detrimental to our waterways and sea life. Garbage cans are scarce and not emptied often enough. Why are there no signs regarding fines for littering? This has to come up in other community meetings. I would do the following. Let residents and tourists know that Clearwater cares and is serious about its city, beaches, causeways, sea life, and wants everyone to keep it clean. Littering is violation with a fine, a possible deterrent, increased revenue for the city. I realize there is an issue of enforcement. This is not different than speeding, expired meters, or other parking or code violations. Many residents are so disgusted by the littering that we don't enjoy walking our neighborhoods, and especially the causeways and beaches. City uses signs for buckling up, securing one's car, no drinking on the beach, etc.
Thank you, Ms. Call. Mr. Horn.
Mayor, thank you. I'd like to make one comment. I think one of the contributors to some of the feedback indicated that Clearwater struggled with environmental issues. Clearwater has not struggled with environmental issues over the 20 years I've been here. I think the most accurate statement that can be made is that Clearwater has been very measured in how it has approached the issue of environmentalism. And so the opportunity for the city to take a more aggressive approach in this regard is one of the things you all will be discussing and determining, how aggressive that you want to pursue that. So, as a summary of what we've done this morning and talking about the path forward, what we are anticipating is that when we get back together and you all begin your discussions about what changes you'd like to make in the strategic direction, our expectation is that you all will have various levels of vigorous discussion, Mayor, and that you all would actually make a decision.
Sure.
So we would know which direction we were going. In the process of doing that, please be aware that it can involve the reallocation of resources to support the direction that you give us, and that we would make budget amendments to again flow it and connect with that. It may raise the question because we don't have unlimited resources. What kinds of things do we stop doing? When we came out of the recession, we had a mindset that said we're not going to go back as we get stronger. We're not going to go back and do what we were doing previously. And for the most part, that was true. But we also did different things. And the different things led to increasing FTEs in order to support the different things. So it's just now that we have had that kind of an experience, the staff will be more sensitive to how we can advise you of the impacts of the decisions that you have made. The only other thing is that once we get the train moving, then we would like for you not to change the direction again. So in other words, let's stay consistent with what we're doing. Let's see how things are going to work out, and that will allow us to make the appropriate planning and execution without having to worry about changing things in midstream. Now, obviously, if it doesn't work, we'll be the first to tell you it doesn't work. And as always, since we're talking on a weekly basis, you can please share with me, your thoughts. I'll make one final comment on citizen engagement. Our work has always been transparent to the public, and council decision-making has always been in the sunshine. So I've heard a lot of comments from people who are making input during a time when we were very transparent with some of the changes that we made, and didn't hear a word from them. And I'm saying that for the benefit of the newer council members, is that I can't think of one thing that we've done in the last 20 years that wasn't visibly done as part of our commitment to sunshine, our commitment to public records law, and so that's just kind of our nature. I mean, that's what we do. But we're always receptive to the direction from the council and people's suggestions with new ideas. Mayor, thank all of you for your patience this morning, and I think you've helped us a lot in hearing your thoughts.
Any additional questions or comments for the city manager? Councilmember Peckman.
So can you just provide a timeline? Because I know, Mayor Hibbard, you mentioned reaching out to the public to find out what their priorities were if we're going to revise the strategic plan. So how does that look, and what's the timeline for
I think that's going to be dependent upon, if you go back to the way that we did it previously, we would have, and you can chime in, but we had large public meetings and we moved around the entire region. Those were facilitated by an outside facilitator. We generally use different vignettes, and people would have the opportunity to vote, basically, and prioritize what they thought were the most important objectives that the city is trying to fulfill. Once we did that throughout the entire region, then all of that information was consolidated. The city council came together again to talk about how those priorities would actually manifest themselves and how we would budget for it. Because ultimately, there's always going to be wants and needs and competing interests, and we're not going to be able to do it all. So there are things that bubble up and become top priorities, and there are some things that generally tend to fall away unless we want to find other things that we want to eliminate or we want to increase revenues. And that is code for raising taxes.
Yep.
So we want to have this next engagement with you all in August, so we will have to back off from that time frame to determine how we can create a framework to get feedback from the public.
I don't know that we'll get this done before this year's budget is completed. I don't know that that's realistic to have those expectations.
With the restrictions of COVID.
I'll be shocked if we can pull it off.
Yeah.
Not only because of that, but literally because of the amount of time that it takes. It's a 6-8 month process because we start out with some meetings, which I think are wonderful because it gives us an opportunity. We have not had the chance yet to be up here together. And, we've been doing it through Zoom, which has been a wonderful medium to use. But it's not the same as being up here and looking at each other and having discussions and getting to know one another. One of the things I've missed, just so the public knows, we have dinner before council meetings in a room with our city attorney there to make sure we don't break any sunshine, as Mr. Horn was talking about. But we're pretty interesting people generally, and we can talk about other things other than city business. And it gives you an opportunity to get to know one another and build some camaraderie, and we really haven't had that opportunity yet. So I look forward to that, but that's also what comes out of the visioning process.
Yeah, I would think so. So as we make decisions regarding our budget for this year, we can use our existing strategic plan and green print, the existing documents that we have.
I think that's unfortunately going to be the way that this year is going to roll out. Because I do not want to overpromise and underdeliver, and I just don't think we're going to have the ability to get it done by the time the final budget is complete. Would you agree with that?
I would tend to agree there, yeah. I mean, we will be creative where we can be. We are already, because we've had conversations with you on some of the environmental topics. And we'll just continue to move forward, and then at some point it'll all come together where you all can formulate what kind of strategic initiative you would like to hang on the environmental label. So,
I mean, I think once we get through the next couple meetings, which are pretty packed with pretty important issues, I think we need to have a discussion about environmental issues. Because I know it's, one of the pillars of your campaign. I think we believe it's all important. There may be some philosophical differences. I know what we used to use as parameters. I think we've always had return on investment. And we've kind of put a timeline on when we should get that return. There is an escalated view that some people say, we don't care about ROI. We care about making the overall environment better. And so I think you have to decide if that is a shift that the majority of the council wants to take. You will be taking away from something else, and you need to decide to what extent you're willing to go. I don't think that is an unworthy conversation, but I think it's one that we ought to have because otherwise we're trying to hit a moving target right now. That's just my opinion.
The other thing that we have noted is, I think Pam would agree with me, is that we're hearing a lot more community expression regarding environmentalism, which we didn't have 10 years ago. Or even 5 years ago. And so that is an input to you all that really helps you all to figure out where do we make these trade-offs. I can remember when Greenprint came forward, you know, the staff's anxiety was, how far out in front of the council are we going to get? And it's always been my philosophy is that that's not our job. Our job is not to get out in front of the council. And we laid Greenprint out. The council didn't approve Greenprint. The council said we support, you know, moving forward with various initiatives that are within it. And that's the way we have proceeded. So I think we're in a different place than we've been in the past. And I think the community is in a slightly different place. But we're also hearing from, you know, a more activist-oriented group as well.
But we also don't have price tags on things.
That's true.
And that always changes. So, anything else, Mr. Horn?
No,
Ms. Aiken, did you have anything?
No, sir.
Council members?
I have nothing.
Thank you.
Yep. I just want to tell people that Salvation Army has been doing food giveaways on Wednesdays. They are starting new ones tomorrow. So Friday, starting at 10 a.m. They are doing this in conjunction with Ruth Eckerd Hall because Ruth Eckerd Hall has so much capacity for cars to queue up. So our police department will be out there helping with traffic control, but if you are in need of food, they are going to have an entire truckload. It's going to be consisting of 4 pounds of fresh vegetables, 4 pounds of fresh fruit, 3 pounds of pre-cooked chicken, a pound of butter, and a pound of cheese. So they're going to have all those in boxes. We do have a work session on this Monday, the 15th, and then on Tuesday, the 16th, we have a special work session dealing just with Imagine Clearwater, followed by our council meeting next Thursday, the 18th. We join you to tune into all of those and look forward to getting public comment on the 18th. Until then, we're adjourned. God bless.
Staff, could you hang on for just a second?